opening kickoff to the final play.
Touchdown!
Your home of the pass.
Yes.
98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots began their new year with a practice behind Gillette Stadium yesterday afternoon as they gear up for their final game of the season at home against Buffalo this Sunday. Gerard Mayo told the media that if he's healthy, Drake May is going to be a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's any position. I know oftentimes we focus on the quarterback spot, but that's part of playing football.
Christian Gonzalez is in concussion protocol. He was missing from practice along with wide receivers Jalen Polk and Kayshon Boutte and starting center Ben Brown. The team will be back out there again today. In other NFL news, Philadelphia running back Saquon Barkley is 101 yards away from setting a new single-season rushing record, but he won't play this weekend along with a lot of other players as the Eagles rest everyone to get ready for the postseason. The Bruins play the New York Rangers tonight at Madison Square Garden. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Celtics will open up a very difficult 4-game road trip against Minnesota tonight. Sean Grandy and Cedric Maxwell have the pregame at 7. The tip-off at 7:30 on 105.7 WROR. Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis are both listed as questionable. And in college football, Ohio State ran by top-seeded Oregon last night, 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. They're in the national semifinals. They'll play Texas in the Cotton Bowl a week from tomorrow. The Longhorns beat Arizona State in double overtime, 39-31. The Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Notre Dame was postponed until tonight after the terror attack on Bourbon Street early yesterday morning that killed at least 15 people. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm John Wallach at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 6:30.
Boston plays here.
Pressure, half court, it's in the air.
Go!
He got it! He did it again!
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Afraid, hello. 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 Mm-hmm. Hello. Hello. Hello.
He's naked. He has a sword.
Oopity up with a football.
98.5! The Hub!
Bruins are back from the West Coast.
Cocaine and hookers. Yes. Na 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 na.
Is it okay to use this for the radio?
Yeah. Welcome to the show. You sweet.
Askino. Edo. Outlet.
I don't even know what that is. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are Toucher and Hardy, Town Fair Tires Studios, 617-779-0985. You can watch us on YouTube, which is a assault to the senses. Please watch us on YouTube. You go to 98.5 The Sports Hub on YouTube and subscribe. And we are brought to, are we, the FanDuel still, right?
Yes.
To your knowledge? Oh, yeah. We are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Well, that's a relief. You don't want to lose that.
No. I'm going to log on to YouTube early this morning, see how long I last today. I haven't made it past 6:15 in the last week we were here.
I'm sure, it's a new year. People are happy. Everything is going to be great.
What could be the big problem with the show between 6 and 6:15? We're not even talking about anything.
Maybe that's the problem. We need to get into sports immediately.
No. That is, I assure you, having listened to programming around the country while I was gone, you do not need to get into sports immediately.
Yeah.
In fact, there needs to be an hourly break from sports because it's a lot.
You got a little cough there, Freddie? You okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, I'll tell you this, since it's not that big a deal. So, I'm a Diamond Medallion member with Delta. And finally, this has paid off because on the way to Knoxville, where my parents live, you can't fly there direct from Boston. So our flight kept getting delayed into Detroit, which was our layover. So I was making calls and I was doing all this stuff. And when I call Delta now, they answer the phone. Like, they literally answer the phone.
Whoa.
So
You got a special Diamond Delta number?
well, it goes, hey, can you give us your birthday? And I go January 16th.
Holy crap, that's only 2 weeks from today.
There it is, the little gentle hint.
No. But I wasn't thinking of it until I said it. And then January 16th, and then someone answers the phone. And they go, welcome to Diamond Helpline. So I said, what are we going to do? And he's like, okay, well, you're flying to Detroit, and if you can't do this, that, and third. So he's like, we can fly you into Nashville. And if we can't fly you into Nashville tonight, we'll fly you into Nashville tomorrow. So you'll just spend the night in Detroit. So I said, okay. I said, all right, okay. So I booked a hotel in Nashville because Nashville is 2.5 hours from my parents' house, and we weren't going to be getting into late. Well, then we sat on the runway in Boston for like an hour. So I'm like, there's no way we're making that flight to Nashville. So I booked a hotel in Detroit. Well, when we took off and were in the air, I saw that the flight to Nashville had been delayed. So I go, oh, I had a hotel. But then I realized I had booked like a garbage hotel far from the airport. And there's an airport right at the Nashville, hotel right at the Nashville airport. So I booked the hotel at the Nashville airport. Turns out we got to Nashville. So I had burned through 2 hotels. I booked 2 hotels that we did not use, and I can't get them refunded because what am I going to do? And then Hardy, you'll be happy to know, in the morning, my parents, who are very old, drove to Nashville and picked us up and took us back.
How long of a drive?
2.5 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Whoa. I made that because the alternative was to get a car, and then I said, I return this in Knoxville? And I was given looks of dismay and confusion.
Oh, boy.
Well, you ain't in Knoxville.
Yeah, I would have just assumed rented a car and not sat in the back seat with 2 kids for the 2.5 hours and stopped at Cane's because every kid has to eat at Cane's.
Oh, so the 3 of you were sitting across the back because both your mother and father made the drive.
My mother, my father drove there, and then my mother drove back, so we didn't die.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, they don't mind driving. They're of the generation. My mom was afraid to fly for years and years and years and years and years, so they drove everywhere. So that's not the case anymore, but they drove everywhere, so they're not as opposed to it as I am.
Your father drives quickly? Is that what you're getting at? Well, you said
no. He drives not quickly necessarily, as sporadically and poorly. He doesn't drive well. He's a bad driver, and especially with people in the car. And he drives what is referred to as the boogermobile, because he has this old Jeep Cherokee with 150,000 miles on it, and for some reason he chews his nails and spits them all over the dashboard, and there's like crap all over everything. So my kids don't like riding in that car. In the front, certainly. Like if I drive that car while I'm there, my kids will sit in back. They don't want to sit in the front seat because it's so gnarly in the front seat. And him and my mother, if my dad's driving, are yelling constantly because my dad is getting into almost getting into accidents constantly. He drove us to the airport. Now, the airport to Knoxville, because I went to pick Stephanie up when she flew in. I thought of Hardy. I said, I'm not going to have my parents do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. And so I picked him up. It's not a far drive at all. But the deal is, on the way back, we were supposed to leave at 6:30 at night, fly through Atlanta, and I got up. I got stuff from this smoothie place that is not around here, and I went for a long walk. And when I got back from the walk, I just started vomiting all over the place.
Oh.
So I had that going on, and then they delayed our flight for an hour and a half, so we were going to miss our connection in Atlanta. But then through the Diamond status, I was able to call and get us on a 10:30 flight. But then I had to explain that to my daughter because my daughter does not like the insecurity of not knowing when we will arrive. She's moved on from a fear of flying. She's not afraid of dying on the plane.
Okay.
She's now not a fan of the uncertainty of the travel, which I understand.
Sure. I understand that too, and I got to be better about that because I'm constantly, especially with my son, he's wanting to know when things are happening, what time we're doing it, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And I do kind of know. I just don't, I'm too lazy to like verbalize it and explain all the nuances of why times might change and all these things. And that probably causes him undue stress and anxiety. And I need to be better about that.
Well, since I'm Diamond, I, with her in the room, called back and I said, can you explain to me what's going on so she would be privy to the information?
Why don't you do this, Freddie Warbucks, right?
Yeah.
He's got all this disposable income. Like, you literally have more money than you know what to do with.
It's more being smart. It's more Clark Howard than Rockefeller.
He is a prairie home companion for economics. Let me tell you, that Clark Howard.
Hey, listen.
He's
he
the
was in
Garrison
Atlanta.
Keeler of my wallet.
He was a big star in Atlanta while I was there.
Why don't you get in on one of these private jet leasing deals? And that way you can fly a little closer to your destinations, and you do it on your time schedule.
Humble the kids, I guess. I don't want to, have them living that lifestyle yet. That's the only reason. And but I'll let her privy. But when my stomach, like, I was like really not, and I haven't been nauseous like that for a really long time. Like, when was the last time you like threw up a lot? And you asked me about my voice, and that's what's scary about my throat. Is when if I throw up, everything screws my throat up, and I get all nervous about it. Mm-hmm. The acid. And that's why part of the reason I had to lose so much weight is I was acid refluxing, and drinking wasn't helping that either, but there was a bunch of factors that were going into it. So that was what was going on in my throat. But my daughter, like your son, are we going to get there? Are we going to get there? We're going to get there. And usually I'm extremely patient with her, and I cannot get annoyed or like even snap back because it's just not fair to her.
Right.
But it was a lot. Yeah. Like because it kept getting delayed, but we were at my parents' house. And everyone wanted to get the hell out of there, and I'll explain later. But the thing is that, like, if you're going to travel with a connection, especially to a city like Knoxville that's got 10 gates, the best case scenarios, that's why I fly through Detroit or Atlanta. I'm familiar with the area. If worst case scenario, there's no hotel, I have people we can stay with. Like, we're not going to be stuck at the airport. Like, I know how to get around, like all that stuff. Plus, like, the worst case scenario in this case was we just spent another night at my parents' house. But the problem is you can get from Atlanta or Detroit to Boston whenever you want. Like, you're going to get on a flight. I think there might be 12 from Atlanta to Boston a day. The problem is getting from Knoxville to anywhere, because when I called to leave to get to Knoxville, if we didn't fly into Nashville, we couldn't leave for 2 days.
Oh, God.
And they didn't count Atlanta as a neighboring airport, so I would have had to buy the ticket to Atlanta.
They don't count Atlanta? How can you not count Atlanta? You can drive there, right?
Maybe because it's not in the same. Well, no, it's arguably quicker than Nashville. It's not, but it's easier to fly into. But it's not much further than Nashville.
Okay.
But maybe because it's not in the same state. But I mean,
that's weird.
There's this debate of whether or not I want to keep my parents' house when they move out or die. And I don't know, man. I don't know if I can deal with
every time you go down
airport.
there. It has nothing to do with your parents. Every time you go down there, there is, I don't know what the right phrase is, but you seem to get screwed one way or another. Well, one way, going one direction or another. And by the way, the fact that you have to fly through Detroit, I mean, that would be a mind thing with me. You have to fly west to go south?
No, that's more direct.
It is?
Atlanta is further south than Knoxville. Yeah, you're flying
My
west.
geography's messed up.
Yeah,
then
so
because-
Knoxville
geography sucks.
It really does.
okay.
So Knoxville is southwest of Boston.
Okay.
So you're flying to Detroit and then you're flying down. Like, so it's actually you're getting the western part out of the way and then getting the southern part out of the way. So it's actually better.
All right.
There, say Detroit's an hour and 20 minutes, and then it's 45 minutes from Detroit to Knoxville, and Atlanta is 2 seconds to Atlanta, and then it's 2 hours to Boston.
Right, so my geography's off, but my
Whatever.
point is keeping the place in Knoxville, it is a colossal pain in the ass. Every time you come back from there, there's a story like this.
I don't know why they don't expand that effing airport. There's obviously, when I got to the airport on the day before New Year's, there was a lot of people there. Like, expand the airport, you stupid hillbillies. Like, there's a need for it. If every flight is sold out, they're all sold out. I'm never on a flight that's not sold out of there. If every flight's sold out, make more flights. Expand the airport, you dumb hicks. Apparently, 20 years ago, there was some push to expand the airport, and the dumb moron hicks that were running Knoxville declined it because they hate blacks. And they didn't want them in. It's like the MARTA system in Atlanta where they don't want to expand the rail system because they don't want them around. They could just get on a train and get here.
Was that on the campaign poster?
I'm sure
To
it
get
was something like
reelected?
that. I'm sure it was something like that.
I see.
We're encouraging because we'd be encouraging commerce and expanding our tax base.
We don't want more people to come to this city.
No,
We're
we
perfectly fine being a AAA or a AA city.
AAA, please. I mean, they could have expanded it. They wanted an airline wanted it to be like a mini base, because that's the thing. It's not the base of any airline. But you can fly direct from Newark, Philadelphia, D.C., everywhere up and down the East Coast except for Boston. So Logan's not out of the woods either. Logan doesn't fly anywhere domestically.
I know, but you can't expand that airport, baby. That's where it is, and that's where it is. Yep.
Well, listen, they already have. I saw the governor at that E-terminal very excited about the things that they had done there.
Oh, it's a beautiful terminal. E-terminal.
Well, you would know. You were in the Dominican Republic.
Yes, I was.
You're international traveler, Wallach.
Yes, I am.
And he's calling games and everything else.
Did you notice the other thing about Wallach on the text chain? And I was driving when it came across, so I couldn't reply to the group as was my wish. But the Happy New Year texts were going back and forth, and Wallach replied HNY. And that is Dominican abbreviation Wallach. That is his new thing. Like, instead of seeing it, instead of saying like, see ya, he's a SY. That's Island Wallach. Now Wallach just does the abbreviations on text. He can't be bothered to type Happy New Year because he's Island Wallach.
Yeah,
he's pecking Wallach.
Yeah.
He's pecking. He only got time to peck 3 letters. Island Wallach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different vibe for Wallach. He's got, as Fred pointed out, not a savage tan, but he's got just a little. He's got a bit of a base. I think it looks good. He's got a healthy glow about you.
You would have no idea if you didn't know that he went on vacation. That he had been on vacation. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but now Island Wallach, I would expect very brief updates today. I would expect a lot of college football playoffs last night. Couple teams won, couple teams lost. No big whoop.
Well, what's
Put your
going to talk
toes
to
in the sand?
What's he going to talk to the Howleys for?
Listen, Barney.
Locals only.
Listen, Barneys.
Yeah.
I know you're all upset about your team losing, but that's all right. Why don't you grab yourself a pina colada and chill?
Yeah. Locals only.
NBD.
They own this beach. You don't come out. Well, he's integrated himself into the culture. You enjoyed yourself, though?
That was a great time. Very relaxing.
He never comes back from vacation without it being a great time. It makes me question. In 17 years with him, maybe 18, coming up on 18, you've never come back from a vacation. You take very few of them. But he'll go to, like, Philadelphia to his in-laws' house. He'll come back, and it was a great time.
Awesome.
He'll go to the
what's
Jersey
not to like?
Shore with his family, and he'll go like it was a great time.
Well,
where else are you going to buy his San Jose State hat? You got to go to the Jersey Shore for
Do
that.
I have that on today? I don't think I have that on today.
Don't you think it's aggravating that when people always have a good time on vacation? Like
It's aggravating that I had a good time on vacation.
Here's what upsets me about it, Fred. I think he's happiest being away from us and being away from here. We know he doesn't. If he had his druthers, he would not have this job. He would have a different job.
sure. Well, we know that.
So
can't begrudge him that.
I think he's happy just to be away from this.
Not true. Not true. I love you guys, man.
No, it's not. I'm not taking it personally. It's
No,
just here.
Anticipatory Wallach we were missing it because
I will tell you this: 2 weeks
You
off.
tipped your hand on that.
I really did.
2 weeks off, glorious.
Yeah, I was ready to come back. Unfortunately,
I was ready to come back, but let me tell you something. We didn't go anywhere. We did nothing. I did a lot of projects around the house.
Oh,
and
good.
I had new projects every day.
Tell Phil Perry not to come in.
I know that's the 9 break right there.
I had new projects every day, and yesterday I got to the end of them, like the ones that were easiest. I saved till the end, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can go back to work now. I mean, it's all done. Everything's done.
Bullet, just one. What was the one major project that you undertook?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay, it's 6:20, but well done, Wallach. Go ahead.
That's why I only said one. I'm sure he did a dozen.
Well,
just one.
I'll give you the 5-word answer. It was a spackling and painting job. I'll tell you so much more later.
Okay, good. Good. I can't wait.
All right. Well, good. I
Spackle and
appreciate
paint.
your brevity.
Hey, Fred, all you need to know right now, S&P.
S&P. It's like the S&P 500, baby. Invest in Hardy doing tricks. You watch dogs? Because I could use that. All right, very good.
It's going to bite my hand off. I don't know.
It didn't draw blood. All right, we will be back in just a moment with everything that happened last evening.
More. and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Did you catch a game last night?
98.5 The Sports Hub. We're Toucher and Hardy. What happened last night is brought to you by our friends at Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, where your hair doesn't have to be a game of what happened. So change your lettuce and change your life with Dr. Matthew Lopresti at 1-800-GET-HAIR. Hardy and I have both been to Dr. Matthew Lopresti. I think I'd be bald if it wasn't for Dr. Matthew Lopresti.
I got a buddy coming in, let's see, 3 weeks from last night, coming in from the other side of the country. He lives in Las Vegas. He's coming here to see Dr. Lopresti.
I can walk there. How about that? What good fortune.
I've slept there just because it's so close and comfortable. Sometimes I just crash there on the way home.
Dude, you can
I
just
take a nap.
now you can just crash at my place.
Yeah, maybe I will. College football playoffs. That's what happened last night. We begin with the college football playoff quarterfinal Chick-fil-A Bowl, Peach Bowl?
Yes.
Okay, I think I got it all.
At Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yes, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Texas.
Yeah, it's been around forever.
Yeah.
No, it has. It's been around forever.
The Peach Bowl has been around forever. Yes.
Yeah, that's
not
where
the Chick-fil-A part hasn't.
I think the Chick-fil-A part has been a part of it for a long time. I had a guy I know, a pretty good acquaintance who got shot. He was a guy who got real bad. Was sitting at the Peach Bowl, and someone at New Year's Eve shot guns into the air, and one of the bullets fell through the top of the Georgia Dome and went into his leg.
You told this story.
And he almost lost his leg.
Yeah.
Hawkins' his last name. And he puts it up on Facebook every year on New Year's Eve so you can remember about it.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, like it really like effed up his leg. Like he was gonna they thought they were gonna have to lose the leg. But yeah, he was sitting, and it's happened again.
He's still bitching about it. He's still whining about it. You get shot in the leg once and you talk about it for years.
I'm not positive if I'm on the radio 20 hours a week, so I'd probably mention it a few times a year on the radio, but I'm not sure I'd put it up on Facebook if I was just a regular guy. I'm not positive I put it up on Facebook, but it does remind me that when you shoot guns off into the air in urban areas, that they do indeed come down.
Yeah, the bullet doesn't enter the stratosphere. Gravity takes effect.
Well, a lot of people don't realize this, and they don't believe it's true. But like when the bullet fell, I can tell you his last name is Hawking. He still lives. Oh no, he moved to Florida, but he lived in Atlanta when I lived there. I went to elementary school with his brother. It's a whole story. But the bullet went and entered his leg and did a lot of damage. So, yeah, the Peach Bowl's been around for a while. It hasn't always been this big a deal, but it was around when I was in Atlanta.
No.
There was a real villain came out of this game, too.
Well, Texas was leading Arizona State by 16 in the fourth quarter. Sun Devils, less than 4 minutes to go. They score a touchdown, intercept the ball, score another touchdown to get within 2.
Scatterboo straight ahead, driving those legs, and in, he gets in, he is in, touchdown, Forks up.
Yeah, Scatterboo was, okay, if you don't know, his name's Cam Scatterboo. He's real hard on. He was thrown up on the sidelines the whole game. They said projectile vomiting.
Yeah.
So he's throwing up, and they keep putting him back in the game. But then he scores in overtime, and all of a sudden he's on a knee talking to the camera like nothing's wrong. A lot of hubris in this young man. I don't care for Scatterboo.
Okay. He finished 5th in the Heisman Trophy balloting.
Well, he posted for the Heisman. He said he was the best running back in the country. And
well, after watching Ashton Genty against Penn State, and Genty is a guy who's was runner-up, and a lot of people should have won it. Which back would you want?
Well, I want Genty because he played Penn State, whose only thing they do well is stop the run. And they said, you're not going to do anything else against us, so we're just going to load up and stop the run. I don't care if you're Barry Sanders in 1995. If someone loads up and says, you're not going to run, you're not going to run. I mean, he was bouncing off people and stuff. I mean, it wasn't like he didn't look non-athletic or something.
I'm not saying he wasn't athletic. I'm just saying back for back.
Scatterboo had a better game.
And he just seemed, for some reason, he seemed to break tackles better. Now, look.
Oh, no. Well, he is strong, but he didn't look like particularly like a crazy great running back to me. Like, he didn't look like he had the cool touchdown in overtime where the lineman grabbed him and
pile-drived him into the end zone.
Pile-drived him into the end zone, and he looked strong. He didn't look super fast. What do I know about Scadaboo?
They're about the same size. Gentry's like 5'9", 210. Scadaboo's 5'11", 210.
Yeah, Scadaboo. This is the first time I've ever seen him play. All I know is he annoyed me. But I wouldn't take the bulk of work that Genty kid did, which is historic, and put it up against one game and say that Scadaboo's a better running back. Maybe he is.
But that's the other thing. Real quick, that's the other thing about Boise State. They handed the ball to this kid, 30 times a game?
Yes.
I mean, that's the other thing. Arizona State has other places the ball can go. I would worry about punishment for this kid 3-4 years into his NFL career. So
the one thing you can't take away from Scadaboo, though, is that he can do the fandango. Scadaboo, Scadaboo.
Can you do the fandango? That is a Queen thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Thunderbolt and lightning. Very, very frightening.
Galileo.
Mm-hmm.
He was enjoying those stars without the Wallach without all that urban lighting down there it made him ponder the great minds.
Island Wallach. Both teams score touchdowns in overtime. Then it's time to go for two. And, before they went for two, Texas with a chance to score another touchdown here. Double overtime.
Second overtime, and Gunnar Helm opens it up that way. Texas's first play of the second overtime, and they take the lead from one of the best tight ends in the country.
Is this
no
the TV?
No expectation.
Yeah,
that was terrible. It's okay. So granted, they're 25 yards out in overtime. So you don't expect them to score on the first play. They score on the first play of the second overtime, and boom, that's it. They convert the 2-pointers. So now they go up 39-31.
Well, and they also had a 4th and long in the first overtime, and Arizona State all out blitzed and left the kid wide open in the end zone. So. And Arizona State appears to have a 12-year-old coaching them by looks.
Dillingham, he just signed a contract extension.
Well, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, but that Jake the Snake was on the sidelines. Not Jake the Snake Roberts, but Jake the Snake Plummer.
Yeah,
was on the sidelines, really spazzing out. He didn't look good.
Did you see that kicker for Texas that almost cost his team the game?
Yeah, you
twice?
missed 2 field goals. I mean, Texas should have won the game.
Well, they had a 90 again, like in ESPN, 99% win expectation with 4 minutes left in the fourth, and then things, of course, turned after they convert the 2-point conversion there. All right, so now Arizona State is tasked with not only scoring a touchdown, but getting 2. But first, you got to score the touchdown.
3rd and 8. Levitt. That ball's intercepted. It is intercepted. Makuma seals it. Hook 'em horns. They're headed home to Texas.
I couldn't stand that guy. That guy was really bugging me. during that game.
I don't even know who called the game.
I don't know
was
either.
It Tessitore?
No. It was a guy I've never heard of, and I don't know. I don't think that doesn't sound like Tessitore to me. But like he was really annoying. It was false enthusiasm, which is that's one of the worst things you can do in play-by-play is this false enthusiasm. Oh, it was Tessitore. Oh, well, maybe he was drunk. He was at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
Tessitore and Jesse Palmer, I think, were the two.
Yeah, Jesse Palmer, almost too handsome for his own good, bachelor.
So Texas wins 39-31. They advance to the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, which will take place on January 10th.
Texas is going to have a real disadvantage being in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
5 miles from campus. Funny how that worked out. The 5 seed gets a home game in the semifinal.
Well, they'll be playing a team which is going to be supremely confident after they did suffer 2 losses during the season. The Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, they wanted to fire the coach.
One of them to Michigan, and one of them to the team that they were playing yesterday at the Rose Bowl, presented by Prudential.
Yeah, of course.
In Oregon, they had lost to Oregon back in Week 6. They would not be losing yesterday.
Off the fake down the middle. Caught in stride. Ibuka touchdown. Buckeyes on fire.
14 out to a quick 14-0 lead, as if that weren't enough.
Those are 2 big guys to be out for Oregon right now. I'll try to keep you updated.
And gets worse. Trevion Henderson is loose down the sidelines, all the way to the end zone. It's a Crimson avalanche here in Pasadena. 66 yards.
To make it 31-0. Ohio State would, of course, go on to win the game by a final of 41-21. So it'll be Texas-Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah. That was not a good game.
That was not a good game.
Most of the games so far have not been good.
Yeah, there's a real have and have-nots. But Oregon obviously was the 1 seed. And Ohio State had some hiccups. I mean, they wanted to fire Ryan Day after the Michigan game because that fan base, I think someone talked about it, some other coach talked about it, is really, Saban, that fan base is really, really, really has an inferiority complex to Michigan, and I think it's just because Michigan's a better school. But they really, really care about that game. Like, I think that even if they win the I know if they win the national title, there's still going to be people that don't like Day, the coach of Ohio State, because he lost to Michigan. I guarantee it. That this is going to be a flawed national championship because of the loss of Brian Day. But Ohio State's got this, 18-year-old wide receiver who's going to be – it's funny, Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State's this, once-in-a-lifetime prospect.
Until this kid,
who's, better.
Well, he had 170 yards receiving yesterday, 2 touchdowns.
He's a true freshman. He's big and fast. He's ridiculous.
He was at 17 in September.
He was 17 in September and dominating.
Yes.
He's a year older than my kid and was dominating D1 football at the highest level. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Penn State over Boise State 31-14.
It's another real fun game.
Yeah, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, not going to spare you any highlights or lowlights from that game. And, of course, the Sugar Bowl, which was supposed to take place last night between Notre Dame and Georgia in New Orleans, postponed until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So the winner of that game will go on to face Penn State in the Orange Bowl. There was a moment yesterday when I was up early watching the news and hearing about the tragedy in New Orleans, where the police chief was speaking for the first time at a press conference there, describing the events, what they had learned at the time. They thought 10 people had been killed by the pickup truck terrorist attack driving down Bourbon Street, and again, more details and everything. We're finding out more and more. But one of the first messages from an official in New Orleans yesterday morning was this.
I will say that we want our community and our visitors to continue enjoying. There's so much to enjoy about New Orleans, and we are going to make sure that our routes in the Superdome are safe today for the game. And yet we had this tragic event, and we're sorry again to everyone in our community. But we do want you to go about the day, as we say, just stay away from bourbon.
Yeah, but otherwise...
What is wrong with you? How did you get elected to anything?
What's wrong with everyone? When I heard someone speak, I didn't look at a lot about it, but, they have, network TV coverage from Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve. I believe CNN is there generally. The guy said, well, the fella who drove into the crowd moved a barricade. And to that, I would say, well, that's no explanation at all.
Well, those sawhorses, you just pick them up and set them aside, apparently.
I don't believe that whoever did it thought they were going to be able to drive their car onto Bourbon Street. If they indeed, their intention was a terrorist act, and they did find, because what I had heard is they found, stuff to detonate or whatever there. I don't think the guy in any way, shape, or form thought he was going to get through those barricades. That is inexcusable. You know for 364 days that there's going to be a huge crowd on a tourist street on this particular day. You know that it would be like if you were watching New Year's Rockin' Eve and just a car drove onto Times Square and they were like, oh, they moved the barricade. Well, no. And by the way, Bourbon Street's not this forever road. It's very, they seem to kick people off at Mardi Gras right when it's over. They get your ass off that street right away.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, just how about have someone arm in arm across the barricade that one night. The night. And don't let anyone drive in. It's like I see how things happen, and like you could sneak some kind of explosive device in, and those are terrible things, and I understand that happening. I don't understand how you get a car into a tourist attraction that happens every year. I don't understand that at all. It really seems like a banana republic down there in New Orleans. I told you, this friend of mine, his dad were about $500 million right after Katrina. He just went and bought everything up. Well, bought everything. All those distressed properties,
Really?
bought them all up for free. Waited until the water went down and built them all back up. He owns all of Magazine Street, this guy.
Wow.
Whoa.
This guy might
That's
own
impressive.
This guy might own, maybe not anymore, but at one point 100 properties, 150 properties on Magazine Street. Had like 17 bars. Hachi machi. But because he took advantage of the system. Everything was so backwoods down there. He just went, screw it, I'm going to buy all this stuff.
So I'm reading an update here this morning on the perpetrator and the victims, but said at the site, security bollards. I don't know what a bollard is. BOLLARD. Designed to prevent vehicles from hitting pedestrians had been removed because they were being replaced ahead of next month's Super Bowl.
I believe those are the ones that come straight up from the road.
So police cars were set in their place, but the suspect, Jabbar, was the man's last name, drove around them. So he drove around the police cars that were supposed to be barricading.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's not good security. That just doesn't seem like something that should happen. But that's me, armchair taking over. All right, we will return in just a moment.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots will play Buffalo and Foxborough Sunday in their final regular season game. Drake May expected to start. Christian Gonzalez, Jalen Polk, Keyshawn Boutte, and Ben Brown all missed practice yesterday. Bruins played the New York Rangers tonight at Madison Square Garden. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. And the Celtics visit Minnesota tonight. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 over on 105.7 WROR. Jalen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis are questionable. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7 o'clock.
And I have had many offers to become an insider.
And then I remember springing on you one day back at BCN. I said, "Oh, that song by the Postal Service, Fred, that you hate, Such Great Heights. Guess who covered it? It was one of those bearded, whispering folk guys that you hate." And I remember playing that for you and you being very upset by that.
What was the line I gave you that they said about Velvet Underground about hippies? Is that it's music for people that don't like conflict. Music for people that just don't want to be at all challenged. Just, I'm going to go to this show and I'm going to stand there and they're going to noodle away and everything's going to be fine.
It won't be an assault on your senses, and it's not going to cause you to think or feel or don't worry about it.
And there's comedians like that too, and it's not even if clean, because like Bargatze I think is a great comic who's clean. It's not like, and obviously Reagan is fantastic and he's clean. So it's not that, but there are comedians that I'm convinced that people just like because they seem like nice guys, and they seem like nice.
Yeah.
And like they're the people that like they've been with their like high school sweetheart and stuff, and they're like, oh, that's nice.
He's a nice fellow.
Yeah, he's a
Kevin
nice
James.
Guy.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, but ironically, he's not. He's a huge dick.
Yeah,
so
how about
that?
Fred, we have another member of the LeBron James family embarking on his basketball career. Bryce James, this is the younger son of LeBron James, has committed to Arizona as part of the 2025 class. He made his announcement on Instagram with the caption, 100% committed. This isn't just some half-assed commitment. I'm 100%.
Have you read his stats?
Yes.
He's not good.
Yes, I have. Not good.
Not great.
No. He somehow got invited to all these elite tournaments.
And then he averages like 5 points a game.
Oh, and in plenty of minutes. And shoots about 29% from the field, not from three.
So apparently
from the field. So he's not good.
He's a 4-star prospect. Offers from Ohio State and Duquesne.
What's wrong with that picture?
Oh, yeah, well.
Ohio State, Duquesne.
Yeah, I understand that the Ohio State thing is just a desperate attempt to get LeBron's in the NIL situation.
At least with Bronny, even though he made the McDonald's All-Star game, there was somewhat of an argument.
Bronny was a D1.
He was a fringe player who, you know what? Maybe he's not the top 24 kid, but he's a top 40 kid.
No, but Bronny James deserves to play at USC. Yeah.
This kid is ranked 100th. In his class, and I think that's a gift based on the stats I've been reading.
Well, if you are at all familiar with the AAU system and these elite tournaments, this kid had absolutely no business being in those games. None.
14 games last spring with the Strive for Greatness grassroots program on the Nike EYBL circuit. Bryce James averaged 6.9 points, 2.2 rebounds, 39% from the field.
There you go, 39%. That's all you need to know. I don't even care. The kid could be like this great defender and whatever. Like he just doesn't score a lot of points. He could fit into a program. He's a great athlete, whatever. They think they could improve him. He shot 39% from the field, and they were giving him 22 minutes a game.
He was only playing 22 minutes. How many points do you want him to score in 22 minutes?
I wanted to hit more than 39% of his shots.
7 points. That's like a point every 3 minutes.
You have guys.
I wonder how many chucked up to get to that.
Yeah,
too.
I know. I just in a day and age of kids scoring 36 points a game and not getting D1 offers.
Right.
This kid.
That's what I'm saying is that you can only take 12, 15 kids in it. Well, 12 really on a college basketball team. That's why there's 64 teams, and there's teams like George Mason that can make a run. I mean, there's really talented kids that can't get onto a program like that or get into these elite tournaments. I mean, there's a million of them.
I know.
Like, it's very, very competitive. So to get a kid out there that shoots 39% of the field and give him a 4-star ranking is a joke. And if no service to the kid, it's just, especially basketball. Anything else, baseball, football, all of it. Like baseball, football, I get. Football especially, you can kick and grow into it. there's kids that play baseball in junior college and go on to be great major leaguers. Like
kids
all
playing elite basketball from the time they're 12,
right?
And and basketball has a shorter roster than all those other sports.
Well, that's what I was saying is that you only get 12. That's why there's teams. That's why in the tournament, it's like Duke loses to the coach of Marquette was his old team. He had the coach at Marquette. He had the team that
Shaka Smart.
Shaka Smart. Who did he used to coach? VCU. Yeah, like that's why VCU could go and like make a Final Four.
Yeah,
because they kept talent. Those kids can play basketball.
Yeah.
Well, I think Bryce can play a little bit because you failed to mention the 5 games he played with SFG at the Nike Peach Jam, where he averaged 5.6.
Right.
5.6. And also scored 12 points in 23 minutes against Knight Riders Elite.
Yeah. Okay. Peach Jam is like the showcase event for all these AAU programs. The kid averages 5 points a game and lands a scholarship at Arizona.
5.6.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Almost
Scalabrini's alma mater, which is you got to put into the thing. All right. We were gone for a long time. A lot's going on. Mark from Medford's very upset about Gerard Mayo. Is a lot of people, from what I've been hearing. We will talk about everything that happened with all the local teams in just a moment.
Patriots and Buffalo Bills will meet in Foxborough this Sunday in the Patriots' final game of the season. Christian Gonzalez is in concussion protocol. He was missing from practice yesterday, along with Jalen Pope, Kayshon Boutte, and center Ben Brown. Drake May was limited with a hand injury, but says he's good to go.
Yeah, I woke up feeling good. Thank the good Lord, and it's another day to get out here and looking forward to getting out there Sunday.
Gerard Mayo added all healthy players will play against the Bills. The team will go again this afternoon. In other NFL news, Saquon Barkley's 101 yards away from setting a new single-season rushing record, but he won't play this Sunday against his former team, the New York Giants, as his current squad rests everyone for the playoffs. The Eagles are currently locked into the 2 seed in the NFC. The Bruins play the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden tonight. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Celtics will open up a very difficult 4-game road trip in Minnesota tonight. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 over on 105.7 WROR. Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis are both listed as questionable. And in college football, Ohio State beat top-seeded Oregon 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. They'll play Texas in the Cotton Bowl, the national semifinals, a week from tomorrow. The Longhorns outlasted Arizona State in double overtime 39-31. The Sugar Bowl was supposed to be played last night between Georgia and Notre Dame. It was postponed until this afternoon after the terror attack on Bourbon Street at 3 a.m. yesterday morning. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Service Credit Union. They've teamed with Charlie McAvoy again this season for 73 reasons to defend New England's first responders. Visit servicecu.org/73. I'm John Wallach at Boston Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7:30.
Boston's best sports talk. There's an app for that. Download the Sports Hub app for loads of stuff. Absolutely free. Connect with the shows, get podcasts, and more. Get it where you get your apps. Or at 985sportshub.com. What's the best way to listen to Toucher and Hardy?
Well, you're going to have to spend $40.
Cough it up, and let's get back to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Hey, it was the holidays. Did you catch any games during the break? During the last couple of weeks, buddy?
Yeah, Nick has been in constant contact with us throughout the vacation, keeping an eye on things. Nick, did you work at all over Christmas? He did not. Someone else was doing the YouTube, apparently.
Ryan was in here working. I saw Ryan on... What day did I come in, Ryan? Monday?
Ryan does the
Tuesday.
Ryan does the Saturday gambling show just out of love of the game. Like Ryan ain't giving up that gig. He just likes it. He likes to be in here with Lifshats and Kendra. He likes things right where they are. He ain't gonna screw that thing up.
I have big plans of coming in here and organizing computer files and sound files and stuff. And I came in and Ryan and I got to work on it. And he gave me a quick tutorial on some stuff to do. And I sat in here for about it was an hour and a half. I think I had overscheduled myself the rest of the day with stuff to do with the kids, so I didn't leave myself a lot of time. But as I sat here, and there's a lot of tension. It was the Cattles and McCarthy show going on in this studio, and I was in the studio next door, and you could feel the tension on the other side of the glass, and it wasn't the right vibe for me. So I had to tap out after about 90 minutes.
You're saying Cattles and McCarthy weren't getting along?
Oil and water on the sports takes, buddy. Let me tell you, they did not agree. They did not agree.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a bunch of buffoons out there, and they happen to be wearing the same colored socks.
That's gross.
Crimson is the color of idiocy, my friends.
That's disgusting.
That it is. It's gross. He's no fan of college football, McCarthy.
Oh, really?
Is it the JV nonsense?
This is delicious.
Alma mater, more like I'm not gonna watch it. Yeah, baby. All right, so we're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel as they continue into the new year. So we missed a lot. Well, we're going now. John, you called a Celtic game, did you not?
I did. I called a Celtic game in Orlando 2 days before Christmas.
Oh, boy, did you ever, Johnny Wallach.
The Celtics are wearing their association white jerseys with the green trim. The Magic have the light blue statement uniforms on with dark blue pinstripes and white trim.
Did he say pinstripes?
I did.
Pinstripes?
And he keeps talking about trim. You know where his head was going. He was already in the Dominican Republic thinking about the ladies.
And white trim. Jaylen Brown looking to go on Batase. Goes right around him and flushes it home two-handed with authority. Caldwell Pope just flew by him. And now we have a fight that's broken out. Holiday is open and makes a three from the left. Wow. Your final score here in Orlando, the Magic 108 and the Celtics 104.
Yeah, that was before Christmas. So, and then they lost the Christmas game, obviously, to the 76ers, the red hot 76ers. So,
but they went over 221 and a half. Part of my three-way parlay that day with a couple of NFL games.
Good for you, Hardball.
I sitting there eating Chinese food as is our Christmas night custom.
Nice.
And it was looking at me. My mother-in-law, my kids are like, "Why do you care about this game? They're not going to win." I just shush. Shush! Come on, Pritchard! Just hit another three! Yes!
I actually took money from my FanDuel account and put it into my bank account. I actually...
Wow.
Hey!
I have never done that.
That's a foreign concept to billions of people out there.
Actually, I hit a few bets, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take some money after in this Christmas season. So Max obviously was thrilled to travel with you.
Oh, it was always good to see Max. We spent some time poolside on the 23rd. It was fun.
In Orlando?
Oh, yeah.
Because I could go either way. It snowed when I was at Rollins.
Tell Fred what you told me about the call that you received before when we were talking before.
Oh, yeah. I was up in the hotel. I arrived like the night of the 22nd, 23rd, about 10 in the morning. I get a call from Max. Max is like, come on down to the pool. Let's just hang out. And so we sat there for like 2 hours, poolside.
Was it just you and him?
Just he and we had the pool to ourselves.
What hotel do you guys stay at in Orlando?
I forget the name of the resort. I think it was the Four Seasons Resort in Orlando.
And Wallach told me, he's like, here I am. I thought to myself, Harney, it's 2 days before Christmas. I'm poolside, sitting next to a Finals MVP.
Yeah.
Right here in the sun. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Just picking his brain about hoops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Life. I'm surprised that it was warm enough to lay out by the pool.
It was. It was like 75 degrees.
That's not pool weather.
That's.
Oh, it isn't?
Nah.
Okay.
75? I would not be dying to go out there and strip down and lay in the sun at 75. 80? Sure.
It snowed. I'm telling you, it snowed in January and February a couple times when I was at Rollins. The Four Seasons, it did, yeah. The Four Seasons Orlando.
In Walt Disney World.
Oh, so that's a long bus ride.
Yes, to the arena from there. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
About a half an hour.
Yeah, it's too good for Orlando, Jamlando. I've never been to that arena as much as I've lived there. I lived there for 4 years, and I never went to that arena. I don't even know where it is.
So I heard some conversation about the Celtics during the break, and they did suffer, back-to-back losses at Orlando and then again Christmas Day against Philadelphia. They split the two games with the Pacers, but people haven't coming to grips and coming to terms with the fact that this team wasn't going to run the table, how they thought, they were stacked and, poised to come back and repeat. And
well, they were 16-3. I mean, at one point they were 16-3 and rolling.
And like when a team, and it happens occasionally, it happened with Golden State a few years ago. They go on this incredible run for the entire season and only lose 10, 12 games. To me, that is borderline pointless. And number two, was never part of my expectations for what the Celtics were going to do this year. Fine, lose basketball games. I am totally okay with that. Now, if it becomes a pattern and you're losing them in a certain way and you're getting beat by teams in similar ways, that's when it becomes problematic. But to think that you somehow can't have back-to-back losses at any point in the season, of course you can.
Well, part of the problem, and I think this is where people got upset, when the game I called in Orlando was missing their two best players. and they had a two-way player, a guy who scored 10 points all season, score 17 and hit a couple of big shots down the stretch, and they were up 15 and lost by, they were down double digits in the fourth quarter. They looked listless, and then the next game against Philadelphia, again, Philadelphia is not at full strength.
Okay, so
that was another not bad loss, but overall, Hardy, they were 8-6 in December.
Okay.
And after winning 16 of their first 19. So they were a little listless in December, but the overall thing, going back to what you started this conversation with, is they're just kind of running in place. They won a championship. This is one of those lulls that championship teams can go through where they're like, you know what, this part of the season is fine. We still got 40 games to go, 40-plus games to go. Let's just kind of, tread water for a while, and then we'll pick it back up when things start to matter in March and April.
You give me the road team on any of these big holiday games. I take the road team every time. So, look, I'm not saying it's great that they lost to Philadelphia, and the Orlando loss is even worse. But the home team on Christmas, the guys that still had to deal with family Christmas morning, they've got stuff to get home. They got to do stuff when they get home. Give me the road team. And that's what I did. I took the road teams in the NFL that day, Kansas City and Baltimore. They both rolled. And I didn't want to bet against the Celtics. I didn't like the spread, but I'm like, give me the over in that game and a little less defense going on. It's maybe the one time this calendar year I have laid something out theory-wise when it came to like betting on these games and looking at the Christmas Day games and said, it all worked out just like I thought.
The road teams were, I think, 3-2 straight up, something like that against us on Christmas Day.
I don't know what the other. I don't know what the other ones did. The only ones that I bet on were the only ones that mattered.
Well, the problem is if you think home court is of any interest, is that
I'm saying it's a disadvantage.
No. I'm saying for the Celtics as a macro, if you're looking at the season and you want to be concerned about anything, it's that Cleveland looks like they're going to, you're halfway through the season almost, and it looks like Cleveland could be the number one seed in the East, and the Knicks are nipping at your heels, and do you want to be the 3 seed in the East? It depends if that matters to you.
Real quick, this 4-game road trip, they're going to start tonight. They have the 4 teams they play are all part of the top 8 in the West, and that includes Oklahoma City, who has just been unbelievably good for the balance of the season. They get them 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday. So you have Minnesota, Houston, Oklahoma City, Denver. That's about as hard as it gets going through the West. So we'll see if the listless play continues. But if the Celtics lose 3 out of 4 in these 4 games, then maybe we have a problem.
Yeah. Don, go ahead, Don.
Hey, John, this is Don from Carver.
Hey.
And if you remember, I called up and said I missed your dulcet tones on the Celtics broadcast, and I heard it the other day, baby. You were great, and I spent the rest of the day listening to Fred Touch's favorite music, doo-wop. It was just a terrific day.
Don from Carver. First
Thanks,
of all,
Don.
I like how you gave Hardy didn't even react to when he said, hey, he was just like, let's get to Wallach, screw you.
Yeah. Hardy's my man. Hardy will always be my man. I'm trying to get in good with you, Fred, because of that little
when you said you were going to beat me up.
Yeah, that dust up you two had.
I remember that now.
I'm 79 years old, baby. I can still bring it.
I'm sure you can, Don. I don't want to tangle
All
with
right,
that.
take care.
Thank you, Don.
Take care, guys.
Appreciate it. 79, he's listening to doo-wop. That might be even a little old for 79.
See, doo-wop was what, mid-50s?
Early 50s?
Yeah, early 50s.
I'll tell you what, and then we'll get to Keith. I watched Goodfellas with my kids that music of that era that they play, like that Italian crooning music.
Oh, yeah.
Not this, but like when they're like at the Coca-Cabana and stuff. That's awful.
Oh,
like,
what?
Just to sit there and listen to the crooner. Oof.
When the moon hits your eye.
No, is it Bobby Vinton?
Yeah, like stuff like that.
Champagne?
Like, that nods to him
Roses
with the champagne.
are
Red, my love. Like that music sucks.
Violets are blue.
And I don't believe anyone likes that. I don't. And then it's just how uncomfortable it would be being in a club like sitting at a table just staring at the guy, like right in front of you, just serenading the crowd. It would be awful. Wouldn't that be really uncomfortable for you, like having dinner in front of this guy?
When there wasn't, you couldn't like just stare at big screen TVs and stuff. I was reading or watching something about Rickles back in the day, how he used to do shows in Vegas. He would go on at midnight and again at 4 a.m. And people would go to the shows and sit there and like just hang out because they would stay up all night. There's no reason to go back to your room unless you were, just going to be banging all night. So people would stay up all night and go to these small clubs and see singers and comedians for 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. shows.
I get it, but they pan. So what my theory is why Scorsese features it so much in the movie is that because they pan to the faces of the guys, is that part of it is that they are able to sit and stare. Despite how violent and hectic their lives are, they can just sit and stare at something so boring. I do think that there is something to that because there is the scene when not the one where when they were out with their dates, and by the way, my cousin Vinny fella, he's got the best looking of all the dates by far.
Joe Pesci's
date,
his Friday Night Girlfriend,
who talks about Sammy Davis Jr. and how she'd have sex with him. She's by far the best looking.
Easy. No, I'm just saying, Hendry.
Yeah, and then but Henry Hill's Gumar, not good looking. Oof. Keith, go ahead.
All right, gentlemen. Long-time listener, first-time caller. John, I have a question because I had worked for that resort for over 25 years, but here in Boston. I've been to that property. So, A, do you swim in the adult 21-plus pool? B, to the right is more of a kids-friendly pool. Or C, hang out at the lazy river.
Oh, I hung out at the lazy river. Don't get me wrong. Oh yeah.
Hung out at the lazy river. You went into the. Is it heated?
No, it was not heated.
And you went into it, so it's like a cold plunge.
No, it wasn't bad. Again, the water there is like 75 degrees, so it wasn't that bad.
Well, on a 75-degree day, the pool is not warm. I mean,
it was. I'm telling you.
Then it's heated.
Heated pools are like 85 degrees.
Oh,
I'm telling you.
No, they're not.
Not a heated pool.
Hardy, have you ever been over to someone's house or gotten like a Airbnb? It's got a pool. It's 75 degrees. It's not heated. It's the water is chilly.
Yeah, I don't know from pool temperatures.
Early summer here, you go to the pool. If it's not heated, it's cold. Like when you go to the JCC in June, chasing that feel in the summer, it can be cold. I'll tell you this.
I don't know what a proper pool temp is. At 75, I don't know if that's warm or not.
Memorial Day, well, he doesn't know the water temperature. 75. 75 is good for water temperature.
The ocean temperature was 77 degrees. I know this was a lifeguard.
Yeah, but
write it down. So,
all right. Well, I'll tell you this: is that what we're going to do is Memorial Day weekend. We're going to get the JCC to open its doors to you.
Okay.
If they will, based on your rejection.
I don't
a coin
think
flip.
they
I get
will.
it.
Not for Wallach. I got a better chance of getting in than Wallach does.
And we'll see you get into that water and see how much you like it. I think just Island Wallach he's so calm that his body generates heat.
Yeah.
When he's Island Wallach. All right, look, we had a big vacation. I was with my parents and my children and my ex-wife and everything else I was with my children and my parents for quite some time.
Ex-wife was not in Tennessee.
She was. She was in Tennessee for
he said
4 days.
He said he went to the airport and picked her up. She flew down separately.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, she was down there for
at least
4 days.
one of us was listening.
Uh-huh. Yeah, my ex-wife came for 4 days, which was good because it was Christmas. And Christmas, everything is moving. It's after Christmas when my parents are turning 83, and I'm with my two kids, and they've been with nothing to do in the same room together for 9 days.
And they're exhausted from the 5-hour round trip of picking you up at the airport.
Oh, my parents? Yeah, absolutely.
The description of your father's car I find rather gross.
The Booger Mobile.
Yeah,
right,
that was really something.
We'll be back in just a moment.
Belcher and Hardy.
Such an fantastic explosion.
98.
Lights. What a night on the town. My father was a horrific at Christmas. The only gift my father ever gave me, I mean, he obviously his income was responsible for the majority of the gifts I got, and I had good Christmases growing up, but was a Weird Al Yankovic vinyl when I was probably 16. Like, it was just, I don't know why he thought I would like Weird Al Yankovic or why I would want a vinyl album.
When did he buy the record?
I would say, so I was 16 in 91.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was 16 in 91. Yeah, the Christmas.
Oh, I
of
thought he got it
91.
for you like Christmas Eve and brought it home.
No. What he would do is he would go he would make a big production on Christmas Eve going to Kmart and shopping for my mom.
Okay.
And one year he
Blue
gave
light specials.
in 1 year, and because Kmart was down the street, so 1 year he bought her vacuum cleaner bags and tennis balls, to which my mother would break out crying on Christmas morning. So my father, to his credit, let's say over the last 30 years, 25 years, has improved his gift giving, but he's still terrible at it. Like 1 year he killed 100 trees by getting a 3-ring binder and printing out the menus to like every restaurant within 20 miles of them.
Oh, that's nice.
And saying, I will get you takeout food whenever you want it.
Yeah, which is also a very nice gift because menus never change. So it's good that you have
Or
like
the
a
internet
stand-
doesn't exist.
Oh, this is post-internet era?
This is maybe last year or the year before that.
Oh, boy. He's gotten much better. You're right.
Yeah. It was like this big, heavy thing, and it's in a box. So obviously my mom is anticipating that it's going to be something of any kind of value to her, and she
It's got
opens
some
it up.
heft to it. This is nice.
And it's a 3-ring binder where he just printed out a bunch of menus like a total maniac. And you know how often she's used it? Never.
Yeah.
She's never used it once. Literally never once.
It's like a doorstop. Just
Right.
put it right down.
Can I interject for a moment? Because I had a similar gift experience getting something from my wife this year. I thought she would really like it, and I was quite pleased with it. And I wrapped it nicely and everything. It was I wouldn't call it a blouse. It was a shirt. It was a flannel shirt.
Yeah, we know who that. That's like your lingerie.
With kind of like almost like a fleece line to it.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of buttons, it had snaps.
Yeah, you can rip it right off.
Rip it right off, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, very comfy, cozy looking. She opened it and laughed, and unfortunately, when it came time to decide that she would in fact be taking it back, I had to present her with the receipt, and she laughed even harder when she saw I got it from Lowe's. So I really thought she would like it, though.
Of course you did.
But we know
Of
from
course
Hardy
you did.
that's like his. First of all, I think lingerie on wives is a little bit ridiculous. It's nonsense. Let's be honest. Like, isn't this sexy? No. But
was it next to the cash register on the way out?
But as far as Hardy is concerned, this is a gift for himself, because what we know is,
Oh my God, would I have loved to see her wearing that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because like Hardy, this is no joke. Like Hardy's favorite thing would be like a woman in a oversized flannel shirt with like a beat up baseball cap on, standing there. That's what he likes. That's what he likes. So she probably knew that. But yeah, you bought her something from Lowe's. I could have told you that wasn't going to go over well. That probably wasn't going to work.
There are times when I need you in my head for moments like that.
Yeah.
Because you speak the obvious truth to me.
Yeah.
And for some reason I can't see it.
Yeah. It was somewhere you would have been anywhere anyway. With women with gifts, if it's somewhere that is convenient to you, it's of no use to them. Even if it's something they like, it has to be the path of most resistance. It's the same with like flowers.
Well, what I got her, that the only thing she wanted that she asked for that I did get her and completed, one of the tasks I did over the holidays, was she wanted a new home office setup. Instead of her 3-monitor jumbled mess of wires and all this stuff, she now has a 49-inch wraparound curved. It's actually a gaming monitor.
We're getting to it.
Right?
Oh, yeah. A curved monitor instead of the 3-monitor.
And set it all up. She's totally wireless now. And that took some time. Like,
oh, you didn't build it yourself?
I didn't build it myself, but that was, and she was like thrilled about that. It was all the extra stuff that I went out on my own and purchased that none of it worked.
He should have just gotten her a gas card and said, "Here's your new office. It's in Waltham."
She did
go to it.
She did like the smash burger utensil set I got for her from Home Depot. She did like that.
Oh, well, that's great.
Lowe's,
Smash burger,
Home Depot.
Make me dinner.
Yeah.
So my parents have this long history of giving my dad giving her terrible gifts. And we all know the Air Supply album story where she yelled at me and broke down crying when I was a small child because I gave her an Air Supply album. But my father, I'm starting to realize this is because he knows these gifts are going to suck. So he makes a big deal about them. So he sits down and my mom starts reading the card and she goes, "This is from Toon, Ginger, da 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 da. These are all dead animals." Dead animals. So they're from a bunch of animals that they've had over the years that have died.
Oh, no.
Because Stephanie goes to me, "These are all dead animals." Because I'm not paying attention to what my dad says because I've learned to block it all out. And so he goes, "These are all from dead animals." So you think, oh, I wonder what sentimental gift he'll be giving my mother since it's from all the dead animals that they've loved so much and are no longer with us.
No.
It was a Barnes and Noble's tote bag with a gift card in it. It was from all the dead animals.
What's the connection to the dead animals?
Nothing. It just
wanted to make her sad on Christmas.
He thought it would be sweet. Here's a list of things that died. Welcome to Barnes and Noble's. And here's a stupid Barnes and Noble's tote bag. Instead, because I have to wrap something. So here. And she like looks in the tote bag. She's looking around, and there's just some gift card in it. And she's like, "Why did you put it from the dead animals?" And she's like, "Well, it's from them."
See, had he collected photographs of all the animals over the years and put them into like some kind of
it would have been weird, but yeah, it would have made a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
He gave her another thing from AIDS.
What?
So, yeah, and it was a can of tennis balls. He said, "Well, here's one from the Hindenburg."
Here, this isn't from me. This is from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Exactly.
Enjoy.
Yeah. This is just the card is just a bunch of pictures of loved ones' gravestones. Yeah, he's something else.
That's bizarre.
Yeah,
That's bizarre.
And my mother now has this thing. I'm starting to, as I get older, I'm starting to like realize what's going on a little bit. And my mother is very passive aggressive because the way she wants you to acknowledge that she's doing things is to offer things to you out of context, if that makes any sense. She bought this $70 honey baked ham for Christmas. How do I know it was $70? Because she informed me at least 100 times. And she'll be like, she'd be walking around. She'd be like, "Freddie, now, do you want ham?" And I'd be like, "No, I don't want ham right now." "Okay, because we got to get through this ham. Do you want me to pack it and put it in your suitcase?" This is like 5 days before we left. "No, I don't want you to pack the ham in my suitcase." "Well, I think it's cold in the airplane." So what she's saying is, "I bought the $70 ham, huh?"
Yeah.
Huh? And she would go to Milo every morning. Like, she'd come downstairs, and she comes downstairs, and she stands in front of you, and she goes, Now, Fred, I got something. I got something." So already you're like,
What?
Jesus Christ.
I know.
But you can't.
Right.
Because she'll cry.
Right.
So you can't say anything because you're like, just Jesus Christ. Your brain is so, just with age, she's always been like this.
Addled. Yeah.
But she'll be, Fred. And I'll go, I know it's coming. Okay, I'll give you an example. That I was real nauseous the day we left. Like I had obviously gotten some minor form of food poisoning. I'd been throwing up. She was aware of it. She comes downstairs. I don't feel well. We're having problems with the flights. Zoe's nervous. I'm sitting down there, and she stands in front of me, and she goes, I know your stomach's bothering you. I take it you don't want any of the ham.
How about some ham to settle the stomach?
Just, ham.
Milo, I know how you kids like ham and eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, she kept going. Do you want ham and eggs? Do you want ham?
Ham sandwich?
This ham. Like, if she threw away the ham, the family would go bankrupt. And another thing is that my son started imitating my father because my father, when he drives, is a big fan of sucking his teeth.
Oh, no. You got some ham caught in there.
With the boogers and the nails all over the dashboard, and he's sitting there sucking his teeth. So what would happen is we'd all be in the same car because when Stephanie's gone, there's only 5 of us. So there's 5 of us in the car together, and my parents have to sit in the front because they're old. And so I drove sometimes when I could get my dad in a separate car. I would drive, and so that was much more relaxing to me. My mother's a fine driver. My father's an absolute disaster. My mother screams at him the whole time, and they just yell at each other. But in fairness, he's almost getting us into accidents, and he has gotten in accidents with us on a couple of occasions in recent years.
Oh, well, then it's time.
Oh, no. He's just not with us in the car. But he'll sit there sucking his teeth, and then Milo will start laughing and then start sucking his teeth.
Oh, yeah.
In to bother his sister, and then so I have
this is the lift situation all over again.
Yeah.
Acting up in the back seat. Fred, now this is where I could have been the angel on your shoulder, just like you could have been with me at Lowe's. Hardy, don't buy that for her. Don't do that. I would have been the angel on your shoulder at your parents' house and said, Fred, take the ham. When you get to the airport, throw it away.
So take the ham, put it with my clothes in my bag.
Yes.
And so get the grease and all the oil from the ham on.
Wrap it up in a dish towel and just throw it away at the airport.
Ziploc bag.
I think you're underestimating how small Knoxville Airport is. I'm actually not sure I could achieve that between walking in and getting to the ticketing. But that's not a bad idea. No, she has to learn that buying a ham doesn't make you a saint. Like buying you, and it takes her.
Is it honey baked?
Yeah.
Well, it's
and tell me this:
top shelf.
How is making ham and eggs in the morning, a honey baked ham and eggs, a 2-hour procedure that requires constant conversation? Making eggs legit takes under a minute. Under a minute to make eggs. Scrambled eggs. Just if you're just cracking eggs and putting them in a pan, they're ready in a minute. And honey baked ham's cooked. So I don't know. So it's putting honey baked ham into a microwave for 35 seconds. It's spiral cut.
That's nice ham.
35 seconds and then making eggs for a minute. That woman stands up there. Oh, and then on Christmas Eve, she gets this Italian food every year. We went out. We drove in. She's got the Italian food in the garage sitting on top of a garbage can.
What?
There's no room in the refrigerator, you see. So why did they pick up why did they pick up the Italian food 10 hours before dinner and put it out in the garage on top of a garbage can? Your guess is as good as mine. So it had to be reheated. They got takeout food the day we ate it so they could reheat it, and they didn't even have room in the refrigerator, so they put it in the garage.
Did she use the binder to find the menu and order?
I don't know, but it's the worst. We decided it was the worst meal we've had, without hyperbole, in at least 5 years.
Was that before or after the food poisoning, Fred?
That was after the food. That was before the food poisoning.
Thought 12. I was thinking the same thing.
No. But the kids did get a little sick after that dinner. We just come home and there's a big trash bin with all our food for the night on it. They went and got takeout food.
What are you, a raccoon?
They got the takeout food at least 11 hours before we ate. I don't know why. I don't have any idea why. I don't know why that it had to be done at that point. I don't know why it takes her 6 hours to make ham and eggs. I don't know why she doesn't just let us do our own thing. Because I know why she's doing it. Because she wants everyone to think she's slaving over everything, and it's getting really annoying. But there you go.
I didn't know it was spiral cut. I'm starting to side with her. That's a nice ham.
You know what? Why don't I just write her a check for $1,000 and just go, here.
Get as many hams as you want.
Here's $1,000.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
Here's $1,000. How about you shut up? And shut up about the ham. Here's $1,000.
Here's 15 hams worth of you being quiet.
Yeah. Oh, more than that. I'm gonna go to I'll go. How about I go to the bank? I just give you an envelope of cash and just go, here you go. Keep it quiet with the ham. Go buy yourself 1,000 hams. Go use the spiral menu thing. You maniac. All right. People are calling in there. Everyone's very upset about the Patriots for some unknown reason. This is all a surprise to everyone.
I thought they were going to have 5 wins.
Yeah,
they might only finish with 3.
It's this real false negativity that is really bugging me. But we'll get into it in just a moment.
Sports Hub headline.
tights and a cape.
And Hardy with blunt honesty.
I am not known as Mr. Fun.
Dutcher and Hardy continues on the Sports Hub.
I said, basically, if you're healthy, you'll play. Do you have any reason based on how you feel to think you wouldn't play?
No, I feel great. Yeah, I woke up feeling good. Thank the good Lord, and it's another day to get out here and look forward to getting out there Sunday.
Hey, we are Dutcher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. That, of course, is Drake May. They finished the season at home against Buffalo. Buffalo is not going to play anyone because their playoff position is locked. And when your playoff position is locked, you don't play people. Like Saquon Barkley, who has a chance to beat Dickerson's record with an asterisk because of the extra game, is not going to be playing on Sunday because it's the team and you rest players for that. But there's this notion, Drake May, got hit a lot on Saturday, and, now they're saying he has a hand injury. And I've been hearing debate about whether or not they should play him, which is so befuddling to me that I can't even see the side to think that you wouldn't. You have an entire offseason, and the whole thing about playing him in the first place is to get him the reps. So you've played him in front of this, behind this offensive line the entire year. He's had these lack of weapons the entire year. If there was any game I was going to play him in, it would be this game. He has the entire offseason. Unless he tears his Achilles, I mean, if he gets a concussion, fine. Then you take him out of the game, and he has all the offseason to heal the concussion. If his hand's bothering him and he can play in the game, play him. Play him. If his hand's bothering him, it's not going to get any worse. He's got the whole offseason to get over it. And if you have this issue with your coach and how this team's getting blown out and you want them to be competitive, then how do you want the coach to turn to all the players and go, oh, we're not playing the quarterback because he's got a hand injury he could play through, or we're resting him, or we want the number 1 overall draft pick, which, by the way, everyone thinks that number 1 overall draft pick is going to be worth a lot. I got news for you. It's not going to be worth anything because the Vikings control everything with J.J. McCarthy because they have no choice but to re-sign Sam Darnold, which means they got to trade McCarthy, and they're going to get way more for McCarthy than you would with the number 1 pick.
Okay. So and that's the only reason not to play Drake May is because if Jacoby Brissett is your starting quarterback on Sunday against the Bills' third string, the Patriots win that game. Do you have any expectation that the Patriots could beat the Bills with Jacoby Brissett on Sunday?
Despite what happened 2 weeks ago, no.
But the thing is this, you have to fire Mayo then. You can't fire Mayo.
Okay.
Like, if you don't play your starters and you lose on Sunday, then you're going to turn around and fire them? You can't do that. There can't be an edict that we don't want to lose the number 1 pick. But by the way, we're going to fire the coach based on performance, but we're not going to play the starters. That's asinine.
If they end up winning on Sunday, their draft position could fall as low as 4. Okay.
And then you have if you're 4th, then big deal. Then you just take the best player at a premier position that's better than the quarterbacks anyway.
But then you miss out on Travis Hunter. You miss out on the opportunity to trade down and gather more draft picks.
You can trade down.
I'm aware of that, but I think that this haul that everyone thinks is going to go for the number 1 pick is not happening.
I'm not even worried about getting 2 or 3 first-round picks. I just want extra picks. I want the ability to trade down to get extra picks to get more people in here.
Obviously, you want to lose on Sunday, but you can't set out to lose on Sunday, especially you can't have it both ways, that people want to fire the coach because of the lack of – first of all, the idea that people are shocked that the Patriots suck is really fascinating to me.
That's crazy.
Vegas had them at 4.5 wins. They won.
This isn't second guessing. This is first guessing. We knew the conversation around after they beat Cincinnati on opening day wasn't okay. They might actually be something. From my point of view, it was thank God they won this game, so we won't be 0-5 or 0-6.
Right, exactly. Like they weren't gonna. Cincinnati was gonna have the opposite kind of season as New England is. Cincinnati now is mathematically still got a shot at the playoffs because they got hot at the end. You wanted the team playing better at the end of the season. They're not. If Vrabel wants the job, we're jamming a lot in here, but if Vrabel wants the job, maybe you consider giving it to him. but you can't not play players in order to, and obviously you'd prefer to have the number 1 overall pick, but you can't not play players and then fire the coach, and then you cannot not play players and keep the coach and say develop a culture. But by the way, we're going to literally tank the last game. Obviously, like the Giants won, and they need the first pick way more than you do, and the Giants won, and they're probably not even firing Dayball, and the win was more valuable to them than the draft pick.
Ultimately, I didn't want the team to tank to get the first pick in the draft, but here we are. We're here. They have one game left. I don't want the Patriots to win this game on Sunday.
Of course you don't, but if you're the Patriots, you can't sit starters deliberately to lose.
I don't care about starters. I just care about May. And I don't want what is beating a bunch of backups from Buffalo do for his evolution?
It gives him reps, and it sets a culture for this team that you can't rest a healthy quarterback when there's no more games to play. The only time you can do it is when there's nothing to play for. Jesus Christ, the Lions had nothing to play for in a lot going on this season, and they played everyone against San Francisco. And if you love Dan Campbell and everyone loves the Lions culture, and this is the greatest culture, then do what the Lions did, because it was a meaningless game last Monday night. It was a meaningless game because everything is this Sunday night against the Vikings. They're playing for wild card or number 1 seed. That's set. And the Lions played their starters because of a culture. You can't not play May. There's no excuse for it. You just be literally tanking. And I can't think of a time a team in football's done that. I know the Jets had a chance at the number 1 pick with Trevor Lawrence, and maybe it's not the worst thing in the world they didn't get him. And they won on the last game of the season.
And they wound up with what's his name? The kid with the guy with the pretty mom. What's his name?
Oh, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah, they ended up with Zach Wilson. But I mean, listen, they didn't have to give him a second contract, so I don't know if if Jacksonville's in a better place. But so just off the top of my head, I can't think of teams actively tanking for the first pick, like in terms of not playing guys, like a quarterback who needs reps. Who the whole reason you're playing for is these reps.
Yeah, I don't know that he needs one more game worth of reps in this season. And look, I think for the overall good of the team and for May, it's probably better that he plays because Mayo is going to be back, and there are going to be guys back on this team. But
you can't fire him if you don't play May.
There's going to be enough change over to where if he does sit out, I think they'll be all right. And to your point about the Lions playing everybody in a game that didn't matter if they won or lost, that's because they still are going to be playing well into the postseason. The culture for this year matters.
No. The culture was set when they sucked. That's what we've been saying this whole time. That's been the knock against Mayo, is that when Campbell took over and they were bad record, he was setting that culture. He played those players. They had far more to lose. If St. Brown gets hurt, if Goff gets hurt in that game, then the amount of crap that's going to come down on him that they got hurt in a meaningless game, he played those guys because this is the culture. And if everyone's enamored, as they should be, with that Lions culture and how that whole franchise got turned around and how he did all this, and that's the litmus of how to do things, it's asinine that you would not actively play a player in a game where it's the last game of the season and you're not resting them for anything. The only thing if there's like an old wily lineman who wants another run at it somewhere, yeah, all right. Give the guy, thanks a lot for your service. Just keep healthy. I guess go off and, try to play for a contender next year. But in terms of your franchise quarterback kid, get out of here. You're not going to play him, actively tank for the first pick. That's ridiculous. And if someone can call in with an example of it happening in the past, I'd love to hear it. I'm not saying it hasn't. I'm just saying the Giants this year didn't actively tank. They tried to win, and they won. The Jets that year didn't actively tank for Trevor Lawrence. I'm just trying to think of an example of a team deliberately not playing guys in football. I've seen it in other sports, but in football,
usually the team is bad enough to lose on its own,
right?
Like this team, by the way.
But if we're not playing our starting quarterback, why? Because we got the number 1 pick. We don't want to win. I don't recall that ever happening. So, all right, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
Hey.
final play.
Touchdown!
Your home of the pass.
Yes.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots are winding down their season this week. They play Buffalo at Gillette Stadium this Sunday. This has been one of the worst seasons in team history, but Gerard Mayo insists that the process behind the scenes has been solid.
Look, these guys have come in here every week, and I know our record is what it is, but they come in here every single week during a hard season, ready to work, going out there trying to get better. And I think that's huge. That's part of it.
Drake May is expected to start at quarterback. Christian Gonzalez is in concussion protocol. He missed practice yesterday along with Jalen Polk, Kayshon Boutte, and center Ben Brown. In other NFL news, Philadelphia is locked into the 2 seed in the NFC, so they're going to sit some people this weekend, and that includes Saquon Barkley. He'll finish 101 yards short of Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. The Bruins will visit the New York Rangers tonight. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Celtics will visit Minnesota this evening. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 over on 105.7 WROR. Jalen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis are both listed as questionable. And in college football, Ohio State blew out Oregon last night, 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. They're through to the Cotton Bowl in the national semifinals to play Texas. The Longhorns beat Arizona State in double overtime, 39-31. The Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Notre Dame was postponed until today after the terror attack on Bourbon Street early yesterday morning. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm John Wallach on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 8:30.
Here we go. Boom. I win. Boom. Yeah. Hit somebody.
We've got a passion for Boston sports.
Get angry.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, if your alarm clock sounds like this is the show for you. Toucher and Hardy, the Sports Hub.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everybody's disappointed. Nobody's happy to be where we are. I mean, I think everybody can see that. This is not what we wanted for a season at all. No one comes into this wanting this at all. We don't put in all that work to put out the product that we've put out there. But we are where we are, and we have another game on schedule. We signed up for 17 of them. We're going to attack this week just like any other week, and I think a lot of guys are excited for that opportunity.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Drake May, there's talk about not playing him on Sunday. Your rookie quarterback who's exceeded expectations. It's not to, by the way, a lot of you and NFL people said, no, don't take Drake May. You have to build the team first and then take the quarterback.
Take Marvin Harrison. Take Marvin Harrison Jr. Yep.
Yeah.
A bunch of people said that.
Or take Michael Penix, or like Michael Penix. Didn't you see Michael Penix? Michael Penix was in
Zoe is a huge Penix guy leading up to the draft. I remember that.
A lot of people on the station were, they take Michael Penix. Don't you see Michael Penix? Michael Penix, because you saw Michael Penix play in that game. In the one game that he played well. You saw that. And then that's why, and you went, I want that, because you didn't watch North Carolina. And so for everyone's wisdom around here about the draft and positioning for the future, I'll take it all with a grain of salt. This whole notion.
They did right by picking Jaden Daniels. Would have been fine. You saw him in the last game.
But you couldn't have picked him, so it's moot. So like
you could have moved up.
Yeah. Well, they weren't going to trade out of the 2 spot. They needed a quarterback.
Look, they deserve credit for taking May.
Yes, and my point is you hit on the draft. My point is people are wrong. And this whole notion that they have the number 1 pick in the draft and that you're taking from it.
The people are wrong for thinking they should have taken Marvin Harrison Jr.
They're wrong for everything.
But I push back on giving them too much credit for taking the 3rd quarterback available at 3.
All I'll say is that there were plenty of people.
What?
There were plenty of people calling in and on this station and writing that thought that they shouldn't take a quarterback at that pick, that they should trade down, and that you should build the team. Liv Schatz didn't want to take May. Liv Schatz, and I think Jim Murray too. Not Jim Murray. Joe Murray was maybe not Joe. But there were a lot of people that were like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to do what the Kansas City Chiefs do. Would you rather not have Drake May? Anyway, we're getting off the case. I made the point. I don't recall a team actively tanking the last game, like not playing their starting quarterback who's good in order to keep the number 1 overall pick. We got this call, and I did a little research because I had the break to do it. Nate, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up, Nate?
Nothing much. So let's see if you did your research. So what happened back in 2011 is when Peyton Manning actually hurt his neck and he sat out the whole year, okay, with the Indianapolis Colts. So instead of saying, hey, look, we can actually have a season, they could have went out and got Carson Palmer, but they stuck with Curtis Painter.
Right, okay. You're right. No, they actively tried not to win that season. I'm talking about the last game of the season.
But what's the point if you're sitting at the top? Think about it. If you're sitting at the top, what are you actually doing? Okay, if you haven't seen anything this far with 15 games, 16 games, seen a swing, that last game is not really going to show you anything.
But then it's the same thing about not playing the best quarterback during the season. How are you going to tell the other guys on the team, oh, by the way, you got to play in this meaningless game, but we're not going to play Drake May? All right, can you fire Mayo if you don't play May? Can you fire Mayo if you don't play May in the last game?
Yeah, you can't. He hasn't shown anything.
Okay, well, then you can't take away his starting quarterback in the last game and go, we haven't seen anything from you.
See, I think Robert Kraft is going to keep Mayo. So that your theory's out the window. I don't think they're going to fire him.
Well, you can't fire him if you don't play him, and also you're undercutting him. Because if your whole problem with Mayo has been how this season they haven't been developing and they haven't been showing anything at the end of the season, and then you go, oh, by the way, you can't play your best player on Sunday. None of this makes logical sense, but Ryan did find something. Ryan, I need Ryan on the microphone.
Yeah, basically I remember in 2021, Doug Peterson with the Eagles, he benched Hurts in the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game. He brought in Nate Sudfeld, and the division was still on the line, and I think he was basically like actively tanking to improve their draft stock. Basically, the story is he lost the locker room because of it, and shortly got fired thereafter.
Yeah. So Ryan, to his credit, found an example of actively tanking the last game, and it lost the locker room and got the coach fired. So in the one example we could find, the Colts arguably tanked a season. So if you're going to just tank a season,
they didn't argue it. They tanked the season because Andrew Luck was sitting there.
That was the suck for luck season.
But I can't recall a team the last game of the season going, whoops-a-daisy, we're not playing our young quarterback because we want to lose. And that can't be good for anyone. You're not overturning 52 people on this roster. If all this BS about May having to play because he was the best quarterback and you lose the locker room and you got to develop a culture, if any of that's true, you certainly can't bench the kid in order to actively tank for the first pick of the draft.
We're going to have Phil Perry in here next hour, and I remember having this similar sort of discussion with him at the beginning of the season on whether or not to play Drake May in general. And he was saying, well, if you don't play your best player, what is that saying to the rest of your locker room? We were talking about this in week 2 or 3, and then they played May. And
your organization is a total joke. The whole fire about Mayo this year has been that he's not ready to coach. Look at how they're performing. They haven't gotten better as the season goes. And then you go, oh, by the way, we want the number 1 pick so we can trade out of it. We're going to actively try to lose this game against backups. But to pay attention to organizations, sign here as free agents. You know, like in either we're firing the coach that we didn't let play his best player, or we're keeping a coach who's supposed to build a culture. Either way, you can't. I just don't understand it. And I've also heard the notion of what if May gets hurt? Okay, if May gets hurt, he gets hurt. If May gets hurt, if he got hurt last week, he got hurt last week. If he gets hurt this week, he gets hurt this week. What the hell difference does it make?
I get what you're
saying. This is the game you want him to get hurt in.
If you miss out on Travis Hunter because you go all out and beat Buffalo's backups, if you miss out on a chance to trade down to accumulate draft picks, I mean, if you're sitting at number 1, the Giants and Raiders will trade up to number 1 to get whatever quarterback they want. You still get Travis Hunter and a bunch of draft picks.
Well, I'll tell you this. John, you're stating the obvious. It's like saying there's $1 million in cocaine sitting on the road. If I pick it up, I'll have more money when it's over than it is. But there are ramifications to what we're saying. you're making the argument that they'd want the number 1 overall pick. Of course they would. And by the way, just as a side note, the notion that the Giants and the Raiders are definitely going to trade with you for that number 1 pick is false narrative, because there's a better quarterback that is out there and available right now, and that is J.J. McCarthy, who teams would much rather have than Shedeur Sanders or the kid from Miami who pulled himself out of the game at halftime.
Ward.
And from everything I've heard, J.J. McCarthy would be far and away the number 1 overall pick in this draft. And if he's going to be available.
That's true. I read none of the quarterbacks in this draft would touch the 6th last year.
So I'm dealing with the Vikings, and I'm making my deal with the Vikings. And you can take Shedeur Sanders in Cam Ewers. You could take them and go screw.
That would be funny if they did, for whatever reason, ended up with the number 1 pick. Whether they worked it that way or not, and then nobody wanted it.
It's happened.
And you get Travis Hunter, which is still not bad.
It's happened. There's been plenty of drafts where a quarterback didn't go number 1.
Great, but then people.
And by the way, you're coronating Travis Hunter as like the only guy in this draft that could be any good outside in the top 10. I think that he's considered by the guys early in the scouting process that write about it as the best player in the draft. But I don't think Travis Hunter is this guaranteed like he's going to end up having the best NFL career. There's no bellwether guy in this draft, I don't think at all.
We had Dane Brugler on, and he seemed to indicate when we had him on that Travis Hunter was the best player in the draft.
Jesus, John. Yes, he's the best player in the draft, but he wouldn't have. He's not necessarily a franchise player, and he might have not been a top 10 pick in last year's draft. Like Travis Hunter's a great college player. He's not an elite prospect.
No, I've been less concerned with getting Travis Hunter as I am just acquiring and stocking up on draft picks. Just give me more. Andrew Callahan was on a couple of days ago, and he made this point. I totally agree with him. It's a numbers game. You're going to hit on a certain percentage, so the more picks you have, the greater your odds of hitting. And it doesn't have to be Travis Hunter. It could be a third-round receiver. It could be any number of players in any round.
Right. I'm not an idiot. I understand the value of having the first pick and trading down and accumulating more picks.
You might be an idiot if you mentioned Drake May getting reps again in Week 18. I don't care about him getting reps.
It's you want him. If the whole thing is you want young quarterbacks with as much NFL experience, and the only way to get that is to be in games. This game's as viable as any other game.
Nah.
It is.
Like,
it is the logic of it.
It's not. The Bills don't care about winning.
Don't care.
Well,
Half the Patriots don't care.
How does that make it an equally viable NFL game if the opponent doesn't care?
Well, they're going to play.
Yeah, they're going to play. They're going to play a bunch of crap players because it literally doesn't matter if they win or lose.
Who would you take, the roster that the Bills put out on Sunday or the Patriots roster?
Even with the Bills backups, it's a coin flip.
And by the way, it's not 24 backups. They can't do that. It's in the guy. And I'll tell you this: I'd rather play the starters in a game like that. Play against starters because the starters might be going half-ass. Those backups playing for jobs.
You saw it a couple of weeks ago. The Bills did not show up in the first half of that
exactly.
game.
So, look, I'm happy that the quarterback's not playing, but I'm not. Josh Allen's not playing, but other than that, you get one of these hard-ons, trying to get some tape. I don't know about that. Ben, go ahead.
Hey, Fred, you're spot on. There's another example where the team who was trying to create culture purposely won the last games. That was the Texans in 2023. They won the last game of the year, caused themselves to get out of the number 1 pick, which that pick ended up going to Carolina. Carolina got Bryce Young. Houston ended up with Stroud. So even if you don't have the number 1 pick, because you're trying to build culture, you're trying to win football games, you still might end up with the right guy. I mean, granted, Bryce Young's been playing better, but I think we can all agree that
Stroud's the better quarterback.
Player.
And Ben, how about this? You tank for the number 1 pick, you get the number 1 pick, and Shedeur Sanders says, I won't play. I'm not going to play for the Giants. And he goes, I'm not going to play for the Giants. I won't play. And by the way, newsflash, Deion Sanders has said he will be very involved in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter where they go. He will tell a team that he won't go to them. So now you have J.J. McCarthy, Who's the better quarterback up for a trade? Because I don't think there's any way that the Vikings can't keep Darnold after this season. I don't know how you sell your team that. So J.J. McCarthy, he's available for trade, young quarterback, maybe younger than Cam Ward. He might be younger than Cam Ward. And Shedeur Sanders says, I'm not going to go to your team. Now there's only one team that could possibly want the number 1 overall pick, and they know you're not going to take the quarterback.
It's so weird.
And so you're sitting there.
J.J. McCarthy was the better quarterback during the preseason, too. He had the starter's job won.
There is a chance.
And now he's gone.
There's a chance that you could get the number 1 pick, and the team with the 3rd pick knows that they have their choice of quarterback because you're not taking him, and the second team he won't go to. So if, like, say Vegas is just a hypothetical. Yeah. Vegas is sitting at 3. Yeah. They could go, all right, well, we could trade for J.J. McCarthy, or we can just sit at 3 because you're not taking a quarterback, and Shedeur Sanders isn't going to the Giants, hypothetically. There's a lot of highfalutin rolling around in this draft.
Trade McCarthy after all this. I understand.
You know what?
Darnold's
they may
had a
not
great
trade
year.
McCarthy if Darnold goes out and throws 6 picks on Sunday. Who are they playing on Sunday?
Well, the team with
Detroit.
the best defense in the NFL.
There you go. The best defense in the
best
NFL.
defense in the NFL.
That's right. I'm sure that's exactly what's going to happen.
But what's funny for me is everyone around here, the team's always good, so they're wheeling and dealing now. We got May in last year's draft. We're going to trade down. Everyone loves QBs. We'll just get whatever we want. We'll see what you get for that number 1 pick. We'll see just how much people want Cam Ward. Well, I'm interested in how much people want Cam Ward, how much they value Cam Ward more than the 3rd kid in the draft. Like, how all of a sudden Cam Ward is this otherworldly talent that they're so willing to mortgage all their draft capital in the future just to go up and get. And I'm also interested where Shedeur Sanders will agree to play. And I'm also interested where J.J. McCarthy would go. So nothing would be funnier to me than benching Drake May on Sunday to tank, getting the number 1 pick and sticking with it and taking Travis Hunter, and then him being just an okay receiver. And for all this wheeling and dealing you're going to do where no one wants to pick, be very careful. This isn't the Andrew Luck draft. This isn't the Trevor Lawrence draft. This isn't last year's draft. There's no sure shot number 1 kid. You better be careful, because even if there was some like kick-ass pass rusher or left tackle that you could go like, all right, look, Myles
Apparently
Garrett,
the kid from Penn State's
all right,
a kick-ass
very
pass
good.
rusher.
He's not Myles Garrett. If there was like Myles Garrett in this draft, remember Myles Garrett? Everyone's like, this kid's a phenomenon, once in a generation lineman. If there's that, you go, okay, well, I've got my Bruce Smith of the future. But you screw around with this, it's going to be very funny to me. Very funny on draft day where you're like, duh, we gotta take Travis Hunter with the 1st pick. And everyone's so excited. And you didn't pay Drake May. You kept Mayo. The locker room hates him because he thinks he turned his back on him. The organization is a joke, and you got Travis Hunter and Drake May and nothing else. And you go into free agency and they go, screw you. I'm not playing for you. Your organization's a clown show.
No, the free agents don't care. They don't. They're not concerned with what happened at the one game at the end of the previous
They're
season.
concerned about how your organization is viewed from the outside, and I'll give you the example of your whiffing in free agency last year. You tried very hard to add a receiver, and none of them would come, and it wasn't money. Ayuk sat around waiting. Ayuk sat around until the last minute.
Well, maybe we'll get a new GM, too. I know you're opposed to that, but I'm not.
I don't care if you get a new GM.
You're the one who said you couldn't fire him after a year.
I don't think you can fire a GM after 1 year and not look like an out-of-control organization. But if that's the way you want to do business, fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go. Look, we gave you a draft in an offseason. we invested all this into you. We gave you the keys. And look, you had your draft. Sure, you got the quarterback, but I don't like who you took in the second round.
Got the quarterback. Here we go. Again.
I know there's just that minor detail.
The team needed a quarterback. He was the 3rd best quarterback. There were 3. There were
Johnny
2
in Southborough didn't want him to take the quarterback.
Yeah, they wanted Marvin
Alex
Harrison
Barth
Jr.
wanted him to take Penix. Trade down and get Penix. Felger wanted him to trade
so
down
Elliot
and get
Wolf
Penix.
is smarter than Johnny in Southborough, so he gets to keep his job for 5 more years.
I'm just saying it wasn't is a collective fan base in media taking Drake May, as John will attest, was not a universal take.
No, far from it.
Far from it.
Far from it. And give Wolf credit for not trading the pick and getting the quarterback. He could have just as easily traded it and not taken Drake May.
All right, we'll get Dave Richards' thought.
No,
Put that in your pipe and smoke
Dave
it.
Richard watches all the football games. We're talking to him. It's not even about fantasy anymore because I lost in the semis to Dan Roach. We'll be back in just a moment.
Start your
Got
day.
your finger on the pulse, Fred.
Begin your
Seldom
day
right and never wrong.
right here. Is that Toucher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
Skills.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Dave Richard is the fantasy football guru at CBS Sports. There's 3 ways to link up with Dave Richard and his fantasy football advice. This is not going to be a fantasy football segment. Dave knows about everything that's going on. He goes to the things like the big mobile game and all these things. You can follow him on X at Dave Richard. He's live on YouTube every morning for Fantasy Football Today, CBS Sports Network. Dave, hello.
What's going on, Fred? I heard that you didn't make it to the finals in your league.
I lost. I had a very unfortunate set of circumstances, and I lost to a man by the name of Dan Roach, who has listened to you on this show, heard me taking your advice, and
That's
then
right. Dan
taking
stole
the
a player from you. That's right.
while I'm on the air. So,
That's right.
listen, I had a great run, and I did lose to Dan, who lost in the final, but it was the best I've ever done in fantasy football. So, all told, what are you going to do? You know?
Yeah, exactly. There's an interesting trend that we saw this season. Really, I should say in the fantasy playoffs, where the top seeded teams all went down, and it's those teams that snuck into the playoffs. They were 500, but they snuck into the playoffs and they won the damn thing.
Yeah.
That happened to me in my big money dynasty league. I was the 6th seed, barely squeaked in, took down a team that lost twice all year. It's just a weird coincidence that kind of happened all along. It makes me rethink how I want to kind of strategize on draft day. I almost don't want to play to win in September. I want to play to win in November. And that means
Patriots.
drafting players that are hurt a little bit early on in the year. We know that they're going to come back week 5, week 6, kind of count on those guys. And then try and hope that whatever, I'm 2-2 after the first 4 weeks of the season, just go on a huge run, make the playoffs, and then try and fortify that roster as best as I can for the playoffs so that I hopefully don't fall off. And then I won't be the 1 seed that falls apart in the fantasy playoffs like yours did.
Yeah, I leaned on running backs all year, and all the running backs underperformed. And what are you going to do? All right, look. This is our first time back in a long time, and there is this chatter going on about how valuable this number 1 overall pick is for the Patriots, and this notion that the Patriots should sit Drake May in an effort to tank and keep that first pick. I was trying to think, can you remember a team actively not playing a star quarterback or a young quarterback in a game in order to lose?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I can. There's probably an example at some point along the way, but most of the times teams will make an excuse for why a player can't play in the game. They certainly won't have his quarterback stand in front of the media and say, I feel great, woke up this morning feeling great, and I fully expect to play. But there's, I don't know how much of an unwritten rule it is, but it's the players want to play. They always want to play, and the coaches will always want to win. Buffalo, Sean McDermott will stand in front of the media. He wants to win this game. He's just going to try and win it with Josh Allen barely playing and a lot of his star defensive players barely playing.
Well, that makes sense because they have football left to play. It's just,
exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
And then I want to talk to you about this because you got to keep an eye on these guys because your job is they're going to perform. How valuable this year is the number 1 overall pick? And I'll tell you why. Because Minnesota is interesting to me because, A, they can trade J.J. McCarthy. And if they don't trade J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold's a free agent. So that affects things, in my opinion. Just how valuable is this number 1 overall pick compared to past years?
Yeah, it's not as valuable. And I say that without knowing. Listen, I'm locked into the NFL season starting in August, so I didn't really get much of a chance to see Shedeur Sanders play. I watched every snap of Miami Hurricanes football because I'm a Miami Hurricanes alum, so I know what Cam Ward is all about, and I think Cam Ward will be a pretty good quarterback. But this isn't anywhere close to last year's class. This isn't anywhere close to I don't think it's anywhere as close as to the Trevor Lawrence year. Keep in mind that there was a lot more optimism, certainly for Justin Fields and for Trey Lance that year. I'm not saying that Sanders and Ward are worse than those guys, but there was at least...
they're worse than those guys in terms of prospects. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if they are, and honestly, I can't say that about Sanders because I haven't seen him. But in the case of Cam Ward, like, we've seen growth and development from him.
He's erratic, though.
He's a great playmaker when things break down, Fred. So I think he does have a chance. I think he's got a chance to have a better career than Trey Lance and Justin Fields.
Well, there's no question. But as a prospect, as coming out as a prospect, like as it stands in this point of his career.
So, well, and I would counter to that by saying that Cam Ward competed at better schools than Trey Lance. He wasn't surrounded by the same type of talent.
Trey Lance was a very controversial pick.
State.
It was a very controversial pick. Justin Fields was not, but he did fall a little bit. So even if Justin Fields is not as good as prospect as Cam Ward, which I don't think. Justin Fields was the 7th pick in the draft?
I think he was 11.
Oh, okay, 11. So, he wasn't the first pick in the draft, so it's apples and oranges anyway. Because I just have a feeling that Patriots fans are so hell-bent on this first overall pick and they have everything, they're dug into this first overall pick, and that it's just not going to be the haul that people are expecting. Because also, what if Deion says Shedeur won't play for Vegas or he won't play for the Giants?
That's always a possibility, although... Didn't Shedeur Sanders have Giants cleats in his
he had Giants cleats. He had Giants cleats made, which if I'm Vegas, maybe I'm a little concerned about that. Yes, he played with Vegas cleats. He had Giants cleats made.
The bowl game, yes.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, and
so
he performed like Giants quarterbacks have been performing lately.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Look, when you look at the AFC and NFC, first of all, the big game in the NFC is, of course, Sunday night. The Vikings are at the Lions. A team with 14 wins is going to be a wild card team. The Lions' defense looks terrible. How good is Minnesota, and how vulnerable is Detroit?
Detroit's plenty vulnerable. In fact, if they ever come across a defense that holds them to under 30 points a game, they could lose. And that could happen as soon as this week. I want to give you an interesting stat that our researchers found. The Lions allowed 7.4 yards per play in December. It's the most yards per play any team has allowed in December in the Super Bowl era. Okay, 1,738th out of 1,738 teams. So this is not a defense. Their pass rush has fallen off. Injuries have played a huge role. Their run defense fell off. Same reason, injuries have played a role. And unless they start getting guys back for the playoffs, it's going to be a problem for Detroit, and they're just going to have to keep outscoring teams. Now, luckily, their offense is pretty much as healthy as they can be, David Montgomery notwithstanding.
No, he might play. They talk about him playing this week, right?
There's talk of it. I'd be a little surprised.
I would be too. But Montgomery's going to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was a far cry from the initial reports right after the injury. It's like, that's it. He's done.
Yeah, it's a sprain, not a tear.
Yeah.
But by comparison, Minnesota's pretty healthy, and their defense has been aggressive. Their pass rush, it makes it look like they're going to go after the quarterback with 6 guys on almost every play. And sometimes they drop out, and sometimes they don't. And Goff will have protection because his offensive line's really good, and that's huge for him. Because if he's under attack, he's nowhere near as good of a quarterback. Otherwise, we can say that about a lot of guys. But I think Minnesota can do what they've done in a lot of games this year, and that's build a lead and then hang on to win. And I think Minnesota, even though they'll be on the road and all that stuff against them, I think that they can come out of this with a victory. I think they can outscore the Lions. And it might even come down to who has the ball last. And I know it's crazy to say, Sam Darnold with the ball last, watch out. But he's earned it this year. He's played great. That offense is great. And that kind of ties into what you were saying about McCarthy and the future of the Vikings at quarterback. Listen, O'Connell's been there for a couple of years. They've been competitive. He turned Kirk Cousins into a dynamo. Now he's turned Sam Darnold into a dynamo. Would it surprise you if J.J. McCarthy turned out to be really good in this offense? I already viewed him as a good, game manager type of quarterback, and he's younger than Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward.
Yeah.
So I think Minnesota, they might try and reasonably pay Sam Darnold to stay, but they should have the confidence in Kevin O'Connell to let Sam Darnold go and work with this kid on a rookie contract. With Daniel Jones behind him, as silly as that sounds, hey, at least it's Daniel Jones behind him. They shouldn't be able to have to pay him that much to be the backup. And they can move forward, and they might be just almost as good, I should say.
It's just
with McCarthy than with Darnold.
Everyone liked Darnold. He was one of those guys that didn't play well, but everyone like in the Jets media, thought he had what it took. They didn't about Zach Wilson. They didn't about a lot of guys, but they liked Darnold. It just like if they beat the Lions and they're a 15-win team and they've got the number 1 seed in the NFC, and you turn around and go, oh, we're going to take this kid who's never played and make him our quarterback, that's very risky business. I know Kevin O'Connell is considered one of the great coaches, but that's risky business.
No, it would definitely be a business decision because Darnold would command something like $40 million on the open market.
Yes, of course. All right.
Strictly a business decision.
And very quickly, who do you like out of the AFC as it stands right now?
Baltimore. I think their defense is peaking. Their offense has been great all year. Lamar's 1 touchdown away from 40. He's been throwing the ball well. He's always a threat with his legs. And I think they're kind of trying to preserve Derrick Henry a little bit for the playoff run. And I just think that the Ravens, both sides of the ball, best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson should be MVP, don't you think?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny because he's better statistically than Josh Allen in almost every way. It's interesting that he's not more of a unanimous choice. All right, Dave, we love you so much. We keep you on even when it's not fantasy season, and would love to talk to you next week.
I'll be here.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
There you go.
You got it, guys. Be good.
Thank you. The power of building relationships. You understand?
I do.
Yes.
It's the power of building relationships. That's how you keep guys sticking around. All right?
What have you done to foster that relationship other than just having him on every week?
Checking in from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah, you shoot him a text.
Yeah, just
hey, bud.
How do?
Yeah.
And then not bothering him, You
give him some space. You give him space.
I find the best way to foster a relationship is plenty of downtime.
Yeah.
Months and months without contact. Give them their space.
Listen, you tell me the best way to foster a relationship. I'm in no way an expert on that. I'm as clueless as I was when I was 15. I don't know how to foster a male relationship. I have no idea.
Do you want to?
I mean, I'm single. I'd be probably good to have more friends. I should probably go out and make an attempt to make more male friends. But it's very difficult for middle-aged men to make male friends. It's a very difficult process. There's the vulnerability required and the action required is very difficult.
Might have to start playing pickleball.
You're a step ahead of me as always.
I know a great place in Natick you can go to.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be back. I know a great place in Telego Village. You should lay your eyes on it. It's something else. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Here are the headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
newsstand, but make sure you bring the Sports Hub app with you so you can hear more of Toucher and Hardy
That's what I want on my tombstone.
on the Sports Hub.
We interrupt this program for breaking news. Newsflash!
Hey, we are Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Everyone's very happy to be back. All right, Hardy, there is a crime that has been committed.
Indeed, Fred. Now, this happened actually before the holidays. We were not made aware of it until after the fact, and now, well, there have been some developments, but we're going to go to the initial news report of what happened in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
A strip club DJ is recovering after investigators say a dancer stabbed him while he was working, and that dancer is expected to appear in court tomorrow.
Yeah, there can be a very perilous relationship between the club DJ and the dancers.
Really?
They get tipped out at the end of the night, and a lot of dancers resent that. And the club DJ, we have a club DJ, a former club DJ in the building right now.
Right. Have we seen him this morning?
Yeah, he walked in. I saw him walk in like right around 6. Now, you've been offered a job as a strip club DJ, haven't you?
Yeah, it was
Yes,
at. I think it was at. Was it what was the one in Lansing? Was it Little Darlings or Deja Vu?
I've never been to one in Lansing.
But it was there, and I chickened out. They offered me the job, and I thought for some reason I would have some type of life or career where it would matter. You know, if I had something like that on my record.
I was offered it at Platinum 21, and if it was a better strip club, I would have taken it, and my life would have taken a much different turn. Because I could have seen myself falling into that lifestyle very, very quickly.
Oh yeah.
But if it was not a good strip club. It was like a bad one with like no hot chicks. So like there was no incentive for me to do it. Yeah. I kicked around the idea for like 2 minutes and then I said no.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Anthony Castura, and this is the 10.
Why? What's that, Marble Mouth?
What? Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Anthony Castura.
All right. I don't know how to follow you because it's just nonsense.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Anthony Castura, and this is the 10. The stabbing happened back on December 8th while Duncan Allen was preparing for his shift at the Casa Diablo Vegan Strip Club in Northwest Portland.
You heard that right.
The Casa Diablo Vegan Strip Club.
It's a vegan strip club.
Casa Diablo. Vegan
It's the
strip club.
Devil's House.
We're all dangerous, but we don't eat meat. Got it.
Well, that ruins everything. Now I can't eat my. Mo Vaughn would never go there.
No.
Now,
if you don't know, Mo Vaughn used to go to Foxy Lady. And,
no wings there.
And get a big bucket of wings, and they'd put a trash can next to him, and he'd just sit and watch the girls and eat chicken wings.
So it's not vegetarian. This is vegan. So there's no Sunday morning legs and eggs. There's no.
Have you ever ate at a strip
buffet?
club?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The TD's in Albuquerque. They had a nice menu.
I've never ate at a strip club. And there's one. I can't remember the name of it. There was one in Atlanta that like just started like pouring money into itself, and they like were advertising their chef. Like he was this chef like from like a real restaurant, and they brought him in. It's like, what do you think's going on here? What a waste of resources.
I'm looking at the menu right now at the Casa Diablo Vegan Strip Club. They have Amy's Burrito.
Of course they do.
Amy's Enchilada.
There's so many jokes you could make, but they'd be so obvious and just and not worth our time.
No, and even they must know too because there are no tacos on the menu. So.
Absolutely. I wonder who this Amy is. She seems to wield a lot of power.
She does.
At the Casa Diablo Vegan Strip Club. This is in Portland, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a whole situation going on over there. Opiate crisis with Hachi Machi.
Our Ariel Yakabazi joins us live in downtown Portland tonight. Ariel, this is a pretty scary thing for this to happen.
Absolutely, Anthony. Well, most of us actually might face.
Anthony's very frequently these strip clubs a lot. This is frightening him so much.
Also, you can tell it's in a good location because you can hear the train horns immediately. As soon as they go to the live shot, you've got that's
like
very,
this guy keeps an eye on what's happening at the strip clubs. I mean, if the DJ is not safe, none of us are safe.
Absolutely, Anthony. Well, most of us actually might face the risk of getting injured on the job. It happens every day. But one club DJ, that's Duncan Allen.
What's going on with this news station? Most of us face getting injured on the job every day. Yeah, you're going to get hit by that train. You're tanking your career with this stupid story.
Was actually stabbed as he was clocking into work. Now, the next images we're about to show you might be disturbing to some viewers, so just a quick warning there. Now, investigators say Peyton Lathan, a dancer, walked up behind Allen and stabbed him 4 times. Then Lathan took off while Allen's coworkers rushed over to help him. Allen says at first he thought someone punched him. Turns out his left lung was injured during the seemingly random attack.
Like leaned over on my laptop typing, and then I felt like the largest pressure I think I've ever had in my life. But it felt like a 500-pound muscular man punching me in the with like his knuckle like that, basically.
Well, I agreed to go on the news if you're the stabbed
strip club DJ.
Strip club DJ. Like
Yeah.
what good? Like what are you going to sue the lady?
Because he's painting a picture, Fred. He's trying to describe what it's like. This guy is just trying to get into work, log in, start his day.
Yeah, I'm sure there was nothing else going on.
Typing, and then I felt like the largest pressure I think I've ever had in my life. But it felt like a 500-pound muscular man punching me in the with like his knuckle like that, basically.
And there is surveillance video of her stabbing him 4 times. She kind of reminds me of the dude that was running around in the lobby out there when we saw in the surveillance video.
Yeah,
where he's kind of skittering
like a
from
wet
door
cat.
to door.
Is she hot? Oh, she's not.
No.
Kind of mousy looking.
Well, maybe that was her thing.
Like, what if she was super hot?
I was looking at the gallery of the girls. I don't see her on there anymore, but they do have some very.
The girl on the right's good looking.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I find that very erotic, not the stabbing part.
Oh,
I see this. One of the dancers' names is Hollywood. Now you're just set up to, for this career if your parents name you Hollywood. Unless there's a chance that these aren't their real names.
Unless she is bound for stardom. I mean, the woman that wrote Juno was a stripper. The singer of Bikini Kill,
Diablo Cody was the writer.
Diablo Cody. Of course you know. Of course you know that. You love Juno. That was right up your whimsy.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah, oh, jeez.
Good God.
That and the Garden State are your 2 favorites.
Oh.
Love it.
But no, you don't. But I'll tell you this. Is that the lady from Bikini Kill who's married to Adam Horovitz, she danced.
Kathleen Hanna.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. I'm sure it was completely random. That there would have been no animosity between the 2 of them. That he just showed up to work and he was typing away his computer and she just decided to stab him 4 times. He's the guy she was going to stab. Nothing else happened. Oh, good. All right. Well, it's nice to know the Pacific Northwest is doing well.
There's a GoFundMe set up for DJ Duncan Allen, and Lathan has been charged with attempt to commit any degree of murder or aggravated murder, assault in the 2nd degree, assault in the 1st degree, and unlawful use of a weapon.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't feel safe. All right. Phil Perry is going to join us in just a moment.
New year with the practice behind Gillette Stadium yesterday as they gear up for their final game of the season at home against Buffalo on Sunday. Gerard Mayo told the media yesterday that if he's healthy, Drake May's going to be a starting quarterback, and May added he's getting ready to play.
You're preparing like I'm the starter. I think I'm going to be the starter, so I'm looking forward to being out there, and I think I'm ready to go out there and win and compete. And I'm in a close game. I want to be out there, and you get experiences in these close games that you can't replicate in practice. You can't get those reps anywhere else. So looking forward to, like I said, get one more chance to these guys and end off with a good note.
Christian Gonzalez is in concussion protocol. He was missing from practice along with Jalen Polk, Kayshawn Boutte, and starting center Ben Brown. The team will be back out there again this afternoon. And within the last couple of minutes, Patriots special teamer Brendan Schooler has made the NFL Pro Bowl games for the first time in his career. In other NFL news, Philadelphia running back Saquon Barkley is 101 yards away from setting a new single-season rushing record, but he won't play this weekend. The Eagles are resting people to get ready for the playoffs. Bruins played the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden tonight. Ryan Johnston and Bob Beers have the pregame at 6:30 and the face-off at 7 here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Celtics open up a very tough four-game road trip in Minnesota tonight. Grandy and Max have the pregame at 7 and the tip-off at 7:30 on 105.7 WROR. And in college football, Ohio State ran over top-seeded Oregon last night, 41-21 in the Rose Bowl. They'll play Texas in the Cotton Bowl, the national semifinals, a week from tomorrow. The Longhorns beat Arizona State in double overtime, 39-31. And the Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Notre Dame will take place today instead of last night after the terror attack on Bourbon Street. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm John Wallach at Boston Tone for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
When sports news breaks in Boston.
Officially from the Boston Bruins.
It breaks here.
Boston Bruins general manager Don Sweeney announced today, November 19th, the team has relieved Jim Montgomery of his duties as head coach.
For the latest updates.
Associate coach Joe Sacco will assume interim head coaching duties.
And the analysis.
To me, this isn't enough. I think they got to shake up the locker room.
Stay right here.
We'll see how this goes.
Boston's home for breaking sports news. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Is elongating.
Weekday morning.
Here goes Hardy.
Dutcher and Hardy.
I no longer love things.
Let's go. Let's ride.
98.5.
Let's roll the dice.
The Sports Hub.
Hey, we're Dutcher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Phil Perry, he covers the Patriots for NBC Sports Boston. He's in studio with us this morning. And, Phil, I did find it interesting. I was gone, whatever, with the Patriots game. They're not good, obviously. I'm a little surprised that people, let's start with this. I'm a little surprised that not only fans, but some media, and maybe you too, are surprised that how bad the team is. Are you one of the people that's surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at their record. I would say the team plays the first play, gets the ball. That's not a huge deal. Whoever starts at running back doesn't matter to me. It doesn't really change the outcome of the game in any way. But it's a weird. Why does that happen? Are we talking between coaches? Is the communication between the guy who's actually putting the offensive players on the field and the head coach where it needs to be? What is the explanation for that? I don't know it. Still, I'm still trying to do some digging to find out what happened there. But Antonio Gibson said after the game, we practiced all week as though Ramondre was the starter. We didn't have anything going on in that regard. And so it's little stuff like that is surprising to me. It's not necessarily their record at this point in the season.
A lot of the flaws with Mayo, and he's probably not ready to be a head coach, but a lot of the flaws with Mayo are interesting to me because stuff like that, it's almost like he was set up to fail because you took a guy who never coached and he's going into an organization that had the most barren think tank, like in terms of analytics and all this stuff, the amount of coaches, the amount of people in the front office. Belichick controlled so much to his own detriment at the end that there's a brain drain, and then you put
everyone's doing this for the first time,
and then and now everyone's doing this for the first time, and it just seems like I actually don't know why, and it's not going to win me many people over, but I feel kind of sorry for Mayo. Because I can see being given this job, and we've had this concept before about getting more experience on the staff, but you're given this job, and then There's no one around.
Yeah, everyone's in charge of their separate area for the first time ever. First, Elliot Wolf's in charge of the draft for the first time. Mayo, the offensive coordinator, is calling plays by himself for the first time defensive coordinator. Everyone is going through this together.
Right, and you're the head of an organization that's never done it, and there's very few people in that brain trust. First of all, there's not enough of them. Would you agree? They got to fill out this. They got to modernize their front office and the way they operate, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think they tried to some degree this past offseason in terms of changing how they do their grading system and changing how they're looking at players, and Elliott Wolf bringing that Packers influence to the Patriots. But I think you could certainly make the argument they need more people. They need more people around, more capable people, more experienced people to be able to help all these people do the jobs that they need to do. And I find your sentiment about Mayo to be interesting, Fred, where you say you sort of feel bad for him. Because I think ownership may feel the same way. And I think it may be what gets Mayo back for a second season is that, well, we knew when he got the job that A, it was at least a year earlier than we had planned, and B, he was saddled with arguably the worst roster in the NFL.
And so if we're choice of offensive coordinator and so on and so forth.
So if we're to part ways with him, can we even look at this past year and say we did right by this guy who we thought was worthy of this job, who we thought was worthy to be the guy to take over for the guy? And that's why I still lean. I'm not sure. I would never say 100%, and I haven't all year. What I've said was it would take something really unexpected. That's what I had been told. It would take something really unexpected and really unprecedented in some ways, and maybe even beyond football, for the Crafts to move on from Mayo after this year. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I think Mike Vrabel being available, complicates things.
I think it does too. But I said the same thing a couple of weeks ago and caught some heat from it from some dummy when I said something to the effect of the Crafts probably feel some responsibility to Mayo to not let him go after the first year. Not that they feel sorry for him or that they're taking pity on him, but yeah, it wasn't a great situation that he started off in, and in addition to them wanting to see if he can develop after a year or two, it would really do him a disservice to say, nah, you didn't get it done. You got 3 wins and, everything looked crappy and now you're gone.
Well, Belichick got 4 and they lost to the Jets in week 17 at home. It's just you're taking over for the best coach of all time with a really bad team and they've given you no support system.
Right.
Mayo may be a bad coach and it's not who you should hire. In fairness, you shouldn't hire that guy. You should hire someone who knows what they're doing. But in terms of the criticisms of Gerard Mayo, none of this...
All things being equal, you should hire an actual head coach.
Like a guy who knows how to do it, right?
Somebody who has done it.
But if you hire a guy who's never done it, for instance, if I was to hire Ben Johnson, everyone's so convinced Ben Johnson's going to be this great head coach. He's never played and anything else. Fine. I hire Ben Johnson. I'm assuming Ben Johnson's surrounding himself to fill in for his gaps in what he's good at.
And the Patriots' solution for that was to hire Ben McAdoo.
Yeah, and not even put him in as prominent a role as Van Pelt.
Right, he's behind Van Pelt.
Right, you just have some ex-loser coach in the wings.
Well phrased.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is all part of the reasons why I'm leaning Mayo coming back. And again, I say Vrabel sort of complicates it because there's a good relationship there, obviously, between ownership and Vrabel. He's a more accomplished guy. He's really smart. I don't know how good
a candidate is Vrabel because he didn't get a job last offseason. There's obviously some things about him that aren't appealing to everyone.
I think especially to owners. I think somebody like Mike Vrabel has a little bit of, a Bill Belichickian quality of not the easiest guy to work with. And even though you as the owner may be his boss, it may not feel that way at times because Mike Vrabel knows he's the smartest guy in the room. He's the big bad football guy who has the coaching experience as well as the playing experience. And so I think that was part of the reason he got run out of town in Tennessee. I think it's part of the reason it didn't seem like there was a ton of interest in him last offseason is that owners were lukewarm at best with the idea of bringing him in and allowing him to run the football operation. Now, a year removed, I think you go to one of these teams that's desperate, whether it's Vegas, where Brady is, there's, again, relationship with ownership, or somewhere like here in New England where you might be given real power to run the football operation. I think that appeals to Vrabel. Does that appeal to owners who want to feel like they have some say, like it's their team?
You're also firebombing everything that you did.
Exactly.
Like your organization's a mess.
You have to admit total failure.
Well, it's not only admitting
to give the controls to Vrabel again.
It's just like total failure. Like, we are completely clueless if we don't have Bill Belichick in charge.
Right.
We're going to fire, again, a GM or take away a ton of a GM's power after one draft.
After this big, long soliloquy about how I promote from within, this is how I run my business, loyalty is very important, and to blow all of that out of there after 1 year? You can't do that.
This is why I think Mayo's coming back. I do. I don't know if they're going to be willing to admit a mistake in that way, especially given the circumstances around him, whether you're talking about the staff or, more importantly, I think, the players and the roster, which everybody still looks at. I think everybody in that organization still looks at Bill Belichick and says, look what he left us with.
Right. There was a report over the weekend. I don't know if you saw it. It's from an organization I've never heard of, that Vrabel prefers the Patriots. He wants to come here. Have you heard anything like that?
Yeah, I think there would be real interest from Vrabel's side. But how much interest? And is it certainly going to be more interest than he'll have in some of these other opportunities? Again, Vegas and Brady being there, I think, would be a real draw. As odd as a guy like, Mark Davis is, he does, generally speaking, it sounds like, let the football people run the football operation.
His father was very cruel. I mean, he can't stand up to authority. You'd have to figure that's a big blotch on his psyche.
Well, but if you're the Crafts, right, and you fire Mayo, just so you can sort of throw your hat in the Mike Vrabel ring, and you're one of 4 or 5 teams that's going to actually be pursuing these guys and offer a pretty good opportunity to the guy, do you do it unless you're certain that you could get him? Right? Because if you lose out on Vrabel to Vegas, and then you are picking between a series of first-time head coaches, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, do you really know that you're upgrading over Gerard Mayo?
Ben Johnson's not taking this job. In a million years, he's not taking this job.
No, you would stay in Detroit.
He's making plenty of money in Detroit. Tim, go ahead.
So, Phil, such desperation, so many spots on this roster to fill. Is it crazy to say that Kraft could actually benefit himself by going after somebody like Kingsbury and offer him so much money to pair up with Gerard Mayo if they want to keep Mayo on?
Yeah, I mean, Kingsbury did pretty well. Yeah, I mean...
So he's saying bringing Kingsbury to be your offensive coordinator when he's already the offensive coordinator in Washington?
Yeah.
Right. So take a lateral move?
A better quarterback that he's currently mentoring. Why ruin his profile?
Again, it's the same conversation to me, guys. Like, when you're talking about Mayo and are you definitely upgrading, and I'm sure a lot of people in this region that have watched this team would say, yes, you're definitely upgrading no matter who you bring in for Mayo. But with Alex Van Pelt, do you fire Alex Van Pelt and then just go back into the hiring process for offensive coordinators and end up with your 8th or 9th or 10th choice at offensive coordinator because that guy's going to be tethered to Gerard Mayo, who's going to be on the hot seat, and your roster still, in all likelihood, even after one more offseason, isn't going to be great.
You know what's funny is it should never come to that, and it should never have come to that in the first place. If they knew they were getting rid of Belichick, they should have known who they were bringing in before they made the change.
They
did. At least had a good idea. They knew they were bringing Mayo,
right?
But they didn't. It shouldn't come down to publicly people turning down the offensive coordinator.
You're saying Mayo should have had somebody lined up to bring in as the offensive coordinator. Right.
The ownership, Mayo, everyone, Wolf, everyone. If they all knew they were taking this job, it shouldn't come down to publicly. Like, we can't find an offensive coordinator. Like that we all know Van Pelt was like in the double digits of choices. That's ridiculous. They should have had this all taken care of. They should have had a staff, in all intents and purposes, like at least the offense and defense coordinators, without signed and had that network and had the infrastructure in place and started from there.
It's like they thought it was going to be easy. They thought it was going to be easy. Oh, we're the Patriots. Come on by.
And if they fire,
sure, we'll be there in a minute.
They fire any of their coordinators, they can't do it without knowing who's taking the job. I don't think you can just fire Van Pelt and then go, it's an open audition.
Those problems still exist. You went from 4-13 to 3-14. That doesn't improve your positioning in the league. That doesn't jump you to the front of the line for coordinators looking for jobs.
Yeah, you would have to do some back channeling or something along those lines to make sure you could get somebody. But listen, there are guys out there that you would want that would probably be at the top of the list. Brian Daboll, for instance, he's still employed. He probably would be at the top of the list of offensive coordinators that you'd want to bring in. I don't think he's going to get fired either. But again, all right, so now you're going to fire Alex Van Pelt in the hopes of maybe somebody that's of Daboll's ilk becoming available?
Maybe.
Or you're trying to convince Nick Caley, who's never been an offensive coordinator before, never coached quarterbacks before, you're going to try to convince, who I think was near the top of the list, if not at the top of the list for them last offseason because of relationships that he had here in New England. And he came and he interviewed, and he decided he didn't want the job. So, you should have those types of options lined up and ready to go and locked in. But I think for this team in particular, with Gerard Mayo, whose network is not massive and whose team stinks, the offensive coordinators have to look at that job and say, I think I could do a good job there. And it might actually set me up to be a head coach at some point down the line. Who's looking at this job right now and feeling that way?
Maybe you look at it as there's a weak head coach, a desperate ownership, and a star quarterback.
And here's my ticket in. I could be the head coach of this team in 2 years.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, if I'm offensive coordinator and I can get this offense running, and we're losing, but the offense is doing something.
I'll get in charge a lot quicker here than I would if I waited.
And if they fire Mayo mid-season, I'm interim coach, and then maybe I keep the job. Blah blah blah.
Boy, and that invites all sorts of odd power dynamics if you're bringing in somebody like that to work underneath the head coach that you have who's on the hot seat.
That's why I stand by my no-flaw theory of hiring a guy that has no future head coaching aspirations but has been a head coach of some success.
The Doug Peterson theory. This is the Doug Peterson corollary according to Fred Toucher.
But you obviously know something about Doug Peterson that you hate, which makes me not like Doug Peterson anymore. So because you've said I don't want to get into it.
I don't hate Doug Peterson.
But there's flaws to him that, he got fired from the Eagles for trying to tank a game, so I guess that there are flaws to Doug
I think the code red was ordered there for Doug. Yeah. And I think his fate was sealed.
Yeah, if he lost the Philadelphia locker room that much, I think that there's a maybe he's not the best choice. Maybe that was short-sighted. But my idea still stands. Bringing maybe the thing to do is bring in a guy with head coaching experience that's not a threat to the job and that can at least organize some of this stuff and get everyone on point.
Like a
message-wise.
like a Fangio, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like a Flores, Fangio.
Flores
would want a head coach job.
Exactly.
You're right. I'm sorry. That's a terrible
failed
job.
Twice. He's a very good coordinator.
Fangio.
McDaniels meets the requirements that you're discussing right now. I just don't know if he would come and work under Gerard Mayo.
He can't, right, with his relationship with Belichick?
I think it would be I don't know anything when it comes to that, but I think it would be a little odd.
I mean, it seems like the four guys that Belichick is very close to, and it sounds like there's three or four. They're loyal to the point of embarrassing themselves.
Who was involved in the weekly meetings? It was
Patricia, McDaniels, and Lombardi. I think.
Yeah, I think
maybe
that
one
was
more.
it.
Yeah, right? Lombardi was willing to humiliate himself for 10 years, making a penance to just get this North Carolina job. Patricia is willing to follow this guy around publicly on the field at Philadelphia Eagles games, just holding an umbrella for him.
That reminds me, why didn't McDaniels go to North Carolina?
Because he's a good offensive coordinator. McDaniels is a really good offensive coordinator, don't you think, Phil?
I know, but he's been sitting out there for 2 or 3 years.
I'm not taking the effing North Carolina offense. He's better than that. Go coach the Jets offense. I'd take him in 10 seconds.
Yeah, if he's not here, I think he could end up getting a gig somewhere else in the league.
Of course.
Soon.
I would. Jesus Christ, I would hire him.
But I would have said
hire
the same
Aaron
thing
Glenn and make Josh McDaniels offensive
If Ben
coordinator.
Johnson goes, would you want him as Lions offensive coordinator, Hardy?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, who's a better candidate? Unless they have a guy that is under the tutelage of Ben Johnson that they believe is some kind of genius.
Yeah, if they've got somebody, his heir apparent already there on staff.
But you have to assume they do because they're always 10 steps ahead, All right, we'll be right back with Phil Perry. We'll get into the electric defense that someone on YouTube apparently, when I said they have an elite defense, put they do not have an elite defense.
Oh, really?
To which I would say, I'm wearing a Lions hat. Perhaps I'm aware of that. Phil, let's get into the Drake May stuff, which is silly to me, but we can get into it in just a moment.
I mean, I was just telling him it flies by. I feel like we're just sitting there in the quarterback room and going over some of the base plans and before training camp, and it's been awesome. I think there's a lot of learned experiences. Obviously, been a frustrating season. It's been a tough season. I have a lot to learn from, but I'm excited. I can kind of see where it's going, and I'm excited to, for these guys to get, like I said, one last chance to get out there and play on Sunday.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Phil Perry from NBC Sports Boston is in the studio with us. All right, Drake May is on the injured list, or injury report, is having a hand problem. He talked to the media. He says he wants to play. There is a calling now on, I've heard it on this station, of people saying, don't play Drake May. And I don't know if it's because you're afraid he's going to get hurt or you want to ensure yourself this number one draft pick. That seems like nonsense to me. Where do you stand on this whole Drake May controversy?
I heard you driving in today, Fred, and I know you're very hot on this topic. Very good listening on the way in.
I
Very
don't
excited,
understand. Don't
Fred.
let it. Don't set him up to go again. You go now. We already heard him.
But
you go.
Okay.
These fans don't know how to lose. Go ahead.
So here's what I would say, because I understand your point and others who believe that you should just play your guys. This entire season, to me, for the Patriots, has really been about asset management. It really hasn't been about winning football games. And Gerard May was even asked about their goals for this season, and it wasn't win the division, win X number of games, improve on last year. It was
get to New Orleans,
find foundational pieces for the future and start to build something here. And so for me, all I would say is don't be afraid to be consistent when it comes to that. And for me, asset management would include not playing Drake May the full game. Maybe he plays a little bit to start, get him a handful of reps against what's going to be a less than Bills team because they have nothing to play for. It would include playing Joe Milton. This is the Packer way. This is why you draft quarterbacks all the time. You draft them to showcase them eventually and trade them off, especially when you have a franchise quarterback. See if you can have sort of a Matt Flynn kind of experience at the end of the regular season here where the Packers, with Matt Flynn, played him late in the season, I think it was 2010 or 2011, ended up being able to earn himself a massive contract with Seattle.
Yeah.
But
in a
nothing.
Russell Wilson that year.
And they took Russell Wilson. And we know what ended up happening with Matt Flynn. He actually ended up here briefly. And I think you should also want to see some of those young guys that haven't played a ton, whether it's Caden Wallace or Cole Strange or others.
What you're saying is different though than not playing them. I get if you played him for 3 quarters and then maybe when you put in Milton to see what he can do at the end of the game when it's obvious it's out of control or something, or when that's a little bit different to me. The last game of the season, then going, we're not going to play Drake May because we're afraid he's going to get hurt. Because this is the game that if he's going to get hurt in week 18. If he's going to get hurt, short of tearing his Achilles, which he could do crossing the street, I don't what are you afraid of? If he breaks his hand will be fine by the season.
Well, you would want him to be able to go. This is such a massive offseason for them, obviously from a personnel standpoint, but for him as a player, right?
Right.
You don't want him to get hurt. I think that should be near the top of the list. And I'm not saying play him 3 quarters. I would say, Fred, do something like get him ready for the week, have him prepare for the week, have your first 15, quote unquote, ready to go, play a couple series. And then what's the point after that? To me, especially the way the Bills are going to handle this game, you're really gaining very little in terms of reps experience or in terms of this other thing, which I know some people have argued, which is you can't do it for the culture. You can't do it because you're setting a bad example. You're not setting the proper standard. The standard was set before the season even began. Players in the locker room, and I've had an issue with it at times, there really has not been much urgency to win this year. And so I'm not sure why you would change that in the final game of the season when there is stuff to lose, whether it's the health of the quarterback or the number 1 overall pick, which I do think is important.
Okay, 2 things. First of all, I don't think you can showcase Joe Milton for a half and get trade interest on him. I mean, he was scouted for years. He's not good. And I don't know what a half of football is going to do in terms of his draft stock.
But that's your excuse.
Say it's 3 quarters. But again, your point stands.
Joe, I don't think people are going to erase from their memory all the Tennessee tape and go, oh, okay, or how he couldn't make Michigan be the starting quarterback at Michigan. But nonetheless, wasn't the reason that the debate was made to play Drake May in the first place. Part of it was, I know, wait, I'm asking you a question I know the answer to, but I don't know your opinion on it. Part of the thing with playing Drake May when they played him was you can't have someone who's obviously better sitting at quarterback. That sends a terrible message to your team. Guys want the best players, and if they're at practice all week and someone's outperforming someone else, you got to play the better guy. Doesn't that, if Mayo's going to be your coach next year, doesn't that throw that all away?
What I would say is they did the opposite of that for the first 5 weeks of the season. Gerard Mayo told us that Drake May had been outperforming Jacoby Brissett going into the year, and they played Jacoby Brissett anyway. And I think it was due in large part, I know it was due in large part, to the fact that they didn't love what they had in the offensive line. And they wanted the offensive line to get settled. They didn't want to play Drake May because they didn't want him to get hurt and because they didn't want to expose him to that kind of stuff. So it wasn't about playing the best players to start the season. And so you established it then. That's what I'm saying. This has all been about asset management. This has always been a rebuilding year. This is always about being looking ahead toward the future. And if you're going to be consistent with that, look ahead to the future and all that might await you in terms of the health of your quarterback, the number one overall pick, and all the good that could come from this game if you handle it a certain way, whereas the risk if you handle it the other way. That's what I would be trying to weigh right now.
But it's the wrench in this whole thing is that Mayo is being considered on the hot seat. And so you are taking a coach who you're saying is underperforming and you're taking away his best player in the last game of the season. Like, it's one thing if you have an established coach and he's like, all right, this is asset management. We've had a rough year. Like I'm just going to, but this is a guy who's, every week people are saying he's going to be fired. The team is getting worse. I mean, are you willing to tank the last game of the season, actively tank the last game of the season, given what's going on with your organization?
Well, he does have a hand injury, and some people may scoff at that. We did seem to find evidence of him suffering.
He
a hand
said to the media he's going to play. I mean,
he said he's healthy and he feels good. Yes, but they at least would have an excuse that they could point to the players and the fans and everybody else and say, "Listen, he had a guy fall on his hand
the players
late
know
in that
he's not
game
hurt.
against the Chargers."
But the players know he's not hurt. He's come out and said he's not hurt. He's not hurt.
I don't think the players would hold it. He's been as tough as they come.
Not
for
to him.
The body of the season.
He wants to play. I mean, there's no doubt to me he wants to play. I'm sure you think he wants to play too.
Does that matter?
No. You're saying the players wouldn't care. Of course the players wouldn't care about him because you were making a justification that they all like him.
Right.
Yeah. It's not Drake May's problem if he doesn't play. It's Gerard Mayo. Like, what if this thing is such a clown show and it's so disorganized and not on message and everything else? I don't know if you have the rope to go start tanking games.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think the Crafts will or should be gauging what happens in a Week 18 game, between a Bills team that's not trying to win and the 2024 New England Patriots, and use that as a reason for why they should or shouldn't keep Gerard Mayo as head coach?
But if I'm up in the box and I see my team put forth an effort against Buffalo and stay in the game and maybe win the last game of the season, that's very satisfying for me and something that can give me something to hang on to in the offseason.
Even against Mitch Trubisky?
Yeah. Yes. Even against Mitch Trubisky. Yeah. Mitch Trubisky was a high pick as an NFL quarterback. What if Josh Allen got hurt in the beginning of the season?
Because you could easily look at it and say, what if even the second stringers go out there with the same attitude that the first team guys had a couple weeks ago, which was they didn't care. So how much satisfaction are you really going to glean from beating a team's second and third team that doesn't care?
You beat a divisional appointment. You beat a divisional opponent at the end of a very long, brutal season, and you go out with some sort of a high note. The whole thing was having this team play better at the end of the year than they were playing at the beginning of the year.
I will give,
and
Fred
they haven't done
credit
that.
Yeah. No.
I know, and they can't prove it otherwise on Sunday.
But you can't actively tank then. Like, you can't go like, oh well, things have been so. Here's what you're saying: things have been so bad that screw it, and screw it all. Whatever, we're tanking games now.
Not games, game.
We're all right. There's thesaurus. We're tanking a game. We're in a position where we're tanking a game. We're so bad. So bad because we can you come up with
They're the worst team in the league.
Can you come up with another example of a team actively tanking, actively not playing their best quarterback to lose the last game?
Yeah, so I heard both examples brought in. The one that immediately came to mind was the Eagles situation where they tanked purposefully, and that was not a team that was in the same situation as the Patriots, but they had nothing to gain. I think that was probably a front office decision.
Well, it
saying,
got Peterson fired.
Hey, Doug, we very much would like to not win this game because it's important for us to be as high as we can be in the draft. And they ended up taking Devontae Smith in that draft. He was a good player.
Well, and it also turned the locker room against Peterson.
I think he was probably going to be done anyway. If the front office is involving itself in that fashion, because Doug Peterson doesn't give a crap about the 10th overall pick. He's the coach.
All right, well, then
I think he was probably gone anyway.
Then fine, he's a lame duck, and so
Right.
the situation, so whatever.
Which is why the front office probably feels comfortable doing it.
It ended up with Doug Peterson getting fired.
Yes.
So there's the thing. So
I would say, and the Colts is a good example, too. They
but the
tanked
Colts
entire
tanked the season.
Okay. So the Patriots, I would not say tanked the season because I do think the players
didn't.
tried hard. They were a bad team going into the year, and they had no illusions of being competitive this season. None. So why start now? When you have, and I've talked to front office people who look at that first pick and say, you want that first pick.
Yeah, we'll
I know you don't think it has a ton of value because J.J. McCarthy might get traded. I don't know why you're certain McCarthy's going to get traded.
I'm not, but then if he doesn't, Sam Darnold is a young QB, relatively young QB that just was on a 2-loss, 3-loss team, and
who probably gets franchised and traded is my guess.
They're going to franchise him and not get the assets from McCarthy. I mean, he's not an old quarterback.
No,
Darnold,
franchised and traded like a Castle situation. Yeah. He'd be
fine.
on
Then franchise and trade him. I
Right.
mean, a team could get Sam Darnold,
Right,
and extend him. It's another thing. There's a bunch of variables. First of all, these quarterbacks might not be any good.
That's true.
Okay, that's number one. We don't even know if they're that sought after. We're assuming they're that sought after.
Right.
I don't know if anyone likes Cam Ward. I don't know for a fact that anyone likes Cam Ward. And if they like Shedeur Sanders, who's by no means a universal can't-miss prospect, what if Dion goes no? Dion's already said Travis Hunter, he's going to be watching over Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. He made a point to say that. He said, they was asked, are you going to be looking over Shedeur Sanders at the draft? He said, not only that, but Trav too. He calls him Trav.
Of course.
But he goes, but Trav too. Wearing Giants cleats during a game, if I'm Vegas, all I got is this, is that you could tank this thing, and what would be very upsetting if you're the Patriots is you could tank this thing, get your precious number 1 overall pick, and sit around on draft day and no one wants it.
Okay, but then you
get your choice of players.
Then you have Travis Hunter. If you go to all the way to 4, you don't get Hunter. You may not even get Will Campbell.
And
I'm not even sure if I want him.
And no one wants to trade up with you.
And the cost of tanking, in your example, is the culture that they haven't really established this year. So there really is the downside to me is not there.
You are doing something relatively unprecedented in the league in actively tanking with a rookie quarterback.
That's right. It's time to be bold.
Sure. That certainly would be bold. And you're concerned about the way your organization is viewed by players in the league, and you're just willing to go, we're so bad, we're not going to try. We're in the position of not trying.
Do you think the players care if they win this game?
I would be pissed. Here's why. Because I don't think and Phil's there every day, so I don't think we give these guys – we got a break, but we got to get on point this year with this stuff. But the guys are there every day and have to be there and have to work. They're in a competitive thing that's on TV in front of people. I'd assume you'd prefer to win.
Yeah, you'd rather have some good plays and have some moments. But overall, do you think the players are going to lose sleep if they end up losing this game on Sunday?
If they bench May.
Lose sleep, boy. I think it depends on the player. I think Hunter Henry will be pissed, for example. Do I think a lot of guys in the receiver room will be pissed if they lose a game on Sunday? No, I don't.
Well, they're a bunch of jabronis.
They kind of are.
And I don't want a guy that doesn't want to win. I want a guy that wants to win. Say there's 20,000 people at that game. There's 20,000 people watching you play football. I'd want to win. You're on TV. Bills fans are watching. There's going to be a million people.
They want to play for their own jobs. And so the guys that are out there are going to play hard and they're going to care. And they're going to hope that they perform well as individuals. Right. I don't think at this point in the season many people are losing sleep about, another loss at the end of the year.
I don't think they would lose sleep about losing the game. I do think that it could be an issue that you actively tried to lose it. I
think you're forgetting Drake May has a devastating hand injury, Fred.
Absolutely.
Devastating. Might have to
Well, then they
amputate.
might want to get him on point with the message that he has a devastating hand injury because it doesn't help when he's talking to the
Could have
media.
been exacerbated in practice. Could have been exacerbated. He might have hit a helmet in practice. You never know.
I don't think that's happening. All right, Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston.
Phil.
Thank you. We'll be
Thank
right
you,
back.
guys. Bye.
Sports Hub. morning.
Never had to knock on wood, but I never had it yet.
Oh, you said you didn't want to hear more music in the morning. Okay, here's more Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub. We know what you're thinking. What could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, Hardy, what do you have?
I have an envelope here addressed to Rob Hardy Pool, care of 98.5 The Sports Hub. On the back it says, only open in front of that lousy mug, Freddie T.
Interesting.
So this is from Tony Maserati, because he's using
lousy mug.
He's using 1920 slang.
Yeah.
Took the paper bag out of here. I don't know.
Yeah, see? What is it?
It's almost like you knew. It's almost like you knew. It is a paper bag with the eye holes.
And it's a paper bag with eye holes that says Fred -UD. So Fred Dud, sure, Toucher. Fred Dud Toucher.
Right.
So now you have to wear that.
You're the pits.
Yeah.
You're the pits, Fred.
No, you got talked about it. Who sent it?
No return address, no explanation.
Tony Maserati.
It's got to be Mass.
I got a Christmas card over the year. I sent you guys a photo of it, of a workout guy named Tony Britt. And it was kind of like an aerobicize thing. And I forget what it said. It was a very funny photo with the return address was from Albuquerque. I'm like, oh, it must be somebody I know in Albuquerque. I looked up the address. It's an address of a Breaking Bad character. So it's a total goof. The return address, and then it was postmarked Brockton. So I have no idea who sent it. Nobody has claimed ownership of it. Somebody put together a pretty nice photo holiday card with a goofy photo on it. I have no idea who sent it. And, I mean, you guys saw it when I sent it out. I think I sent it to everybody.
I don't remember.
But I have no idea who sent it.
That's a lot of fun. What an elaborate fun thing to do for the holidays.
When's the last time have you ever put together and sent out a Christmas card, or was that always your ex-wife's?
It was always my ex-wife.
Yeah. So you've never had anything to do with it?
No. But I don't know if it's just us, but they are. Maybe it's just us not being as popular, but they don't seem to be as frequent. I think when kids get older, the need to shove it in everyone's face kind of gets away.
Yeah. Emails. Mitch in New Bedford said, it was on TV the other day. The Kennedy Center honors the Grateful Dead. I expected Fred to leap out of the crowd and put a stop to this. Has the Kennedy Center run out of artists to honor?
Well, they certainly did it while everyone was alive. They did it just in time for half of them to be dead. Pigpen! I mean, why now? Like, what have they done in the last 50 years that was of any relevance? Was John Mayer there, who I used to hang out with in Atlanta?
I did not see him there, but I'd be kind of surprised if he wasn't there.
I'm saying, is he? Well, he was the Dead and Company.
Right.
So, like, the Grateful Dead hasn't existed as an entity because I remember because we made a video and pissed off a bunch of hippies when I was a
90s?
kid. Yeah,
Early 90s?
Maybe 93 is when Garcia died. And
that sounds
it was because it was a wonderful day.
Finally,
it was later. It was like 95, I think.
Phil T sent me an email. Dearest
I don't think so. I think it was.
Look it up.
It was the summer before I went to college, I think. Because I was running around with Dave Migdal making a video.
Oh, the summer of you and Dave.
Yeah, well, it was like our broke back.
Yeah,
mountain.
August 95. August 9th, 95.
I thought I would have been more together by then. Go ahead.
Email from a guy who spent the holidays in Michigan. He said this year they pulled into surprise, surprise. There's a project started next to the garage. Her uncle works in construction, and he was building a sugar shack to begin maple syrup production this winter and spring.
Yes.
Enlisted my help and my father-in-law to put up trusses, supports. It was quickly became the living Hardy fantasy. Trips to the lumber yard, heavy tool belts filled with miscellaneous screws, nail guns, power drills, hand saws, table saws, ! Tractors to move the trusses closer to the structure. Can't wait to go back in the summer and see the completed job.
So the idea is that you build this structure to get maple syrup from the tree?
I guess once you get the syrup out of the tree, you got to take it into the.
Yeah, this is independent of that. You have to go get the syrup and bring it to the
post-show
shack.
meeting, Fred. It's a fascinating process. I'll tell you all about it.
Wait, so this is where you store it like a vineyard, like where they put the barrels?
No, you got to cook it down. You got to cook the sap down to get the syrup, and that's a whole process.
No, it's a meth factory. Let's be honest.
Basically, but for delicious maple syrup.
He didn't say where in Michigan. That's a good chance.
I saw the movie about the fighter from Flint. Wasn't bad. The Olympic fighter.